Eagle, go for landing, over. Roger, understand, go for landing. Eagle looking great. Houston, the Eagle has landed.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Joe Frankenstein Part 2 Closeout Party. It's a busy night for streaming. There's a couple of things closing out tonight, and there's a lot of people vying for your time. So everybody that's here, we really appreciate you showing up. Our campaign closes out tonight at midnight Pacific Coast time, which is 3 a.m. here, East Coast time. And the link is in the description of the show, and it's also pinned to the top of the chat. So if you haven't gotten on board, please do so. Tonight we got the Joe Frankenstein team here. Mi amigo, Mr. Chuck Dixon.
Hey.
There he is, the man, the myth, the Hawaiian legend. And the mighty artist Anthony Gonzalez Clark is with us as well.
Uhuru.
Is that Hawaiian? What was that?
No, it's like black theology or something.
Oh, okay.
There you go. All right,
If you guys haven't seen, Anthony's been doing a hell of a job doing some of those variant covers for us. And we got some big news to announce a little bit later about this talented guy.
Yeah.
But let's check out the campaign here real quick. And there we go. Okay.
Wow, we're over 80.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. We popped over 80. I think our buddies over there at FNT were giving us a nice little boost. It's much appreciated. And so you just saw the trailer. This book is the second part to part one. If you haven't ordered part one, don't worry about it. We're just about done fulfilling part one. Julie should have that wrapped up by the end of this week. So everybody will get the single issues, the reader copies will all be going out by then. The only thing that won't have gone out is the CGC. I've signed most of those. There's a lot of paperwork that goes with them that has to be done. And then I got to send them to Chuck, and then Chuck's going to bring them over to CGC himself. And then they will ship them out to you. But for all intents and purposes, the campaign will be just about complete by the end of this week. All that to say, if you haven't ordered part one, it will be up on the Compass Comics website once all the backers are done. So probably the beginning of next week, you'll see it up on the Compass Comics website. So fear not about backing part two if you haven't gotten part one.
Cool.
Yeah.
I didn't think they'd be available that soon.
Oh, we don't fool around here at Compass Comics here, Chuck.
Apparently not. Julie runs a tight ship.
She does. I mean, I say it like I'm the boss, but
oh yeah. Only the dog thinks you're the boss.
Yeah. and I'm not even sure Pumpkin thinks that.
Dogs are easily fooled.
I keep forgetting that I'm on this show. I'm not just listening, so I can laugh with you guys. You hear me. Yeah. So are all your wives working as employees for you guys in some way? Trying to get my wife to do that.
No, mine isn't.
Okay. She was writing. She was doing some writing for you.
No, well, yeah. Back when I was on The Simpsons, she was, yeah, and she's officially my muse. So I guess she works with me. I don't know.
Got it.
Is that right? She did some writing on The Simpsons?
Yeah, she came up with like half the plot lines that I did in The Simpsons.
Oh, that's
cool. And she
cool.
came up with plot lines for SpongeBob too.
Was she a big fan of those cartoons?
She liked SpongeBob. She did not like The Simpsons. She actively disliked it, but she got interested in the idea of, have they ever done this? Have they ever done that? She liked the idea that they had done so many episodes and done so many stories. Was there anything left to do?
Right.
The South Park episode, the Simpsons did it episode of South Park, like that. She was like that all the time.
Yeah.
Simpsons did it.
That's kind of neat. Sometimes when you're detached from something that's so big that it actually frees you to think in different ways. You know, I mean, I remember I never read an X-Men comic in my life outside of maybe the first, few Jack Kirby ones. I never read any of the new X-Men. I didn't know who any of these characters were. And I did some of the best penciling work of my career when I did X-Men Forever. I did like three issues or something like that. And I was like, I didn't care. I mean, it's not that I didn't care. I mean, it's like I didn't care about getting it wrong.
Yeah,
so
you weren't invested.
Yeah. So that way I could do something what I thought was really cool without wondering, well, is this the way that Nightcrawler, is that his name? Nightcrawler?
Yeah.
Wait, so both of you are not into X-Men? Is that
No.
it? You're both not into it?
Well,
No,
we're
I
not
never
X-Men
was.
fans.
Okay.
Never
Okay. I was sorry, Graham, go on. I was just trying to get that, like, make sure. Yeah.
Well, speaking of X-Men, the
Hey,
X-Man
Mike.
himself.
You say that like speaking of former men.
Yeah, the man formerly known as Mike Barron. How are you, Mike?
Good.
Good.
I'm working on a cover for Mike.
Oh, excellent.
Wow.
Bronze
Which book?
Star.
Bronze Star, that's right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, that is an awesome project, guys. I had Mike on my show recently to showcase Bronze Star. And if you haven't seen it, go to my channel and watch that, and then go back that project. It's got werewolves and it's got cowboys. What more do you need?
It's one of my favorite things. No dinosaurs?
Well, no, but it's got something that we haven't mentioned yet. That's why we're able to offer the werewolf. We offer you a werewolf to entice you into the door because there's something much worse.
Oh,
Cool.
And I'm like a head, and I'm like, oh man, what am I gonna draw now? Because it's like, yeah, there's the werewolf, right? And then I got to work with the cowboys and werewolves that everybody's doing already. But anyways, yeah,
You can always draw a poker game.
it's true.
God.
I
had to do that one time in Detective.
Oh yeah, you did.
Yeah. What a pain that was. You got to sit them in a circle, and depending on the dialogue, you got to, the word balloons got to go, in order, but that might not be how they're seated at the table,
Right,
Right. Oh yeah, I hate that. I hate drawing like Vegas scenes, like where there's crap tables and all that other stuff, all the lights and oof, that's hard stuff. I'll let Anthony draw that.
Yeah, right. I know, it's like every single time, like Chuck will write something in My Sister Suprema, and I'm like, I haven't done that yet, and I got to figure. I'm like, how am I going to do this? And I'm like, you guys were talking about, Ramita and how he was a perfectionist, and I'm like, I think I am. I take a long time trying to really figure this out and make it look like the best. The longest time I spend is like just thumbing it, just sketching out and all that kind of stuff as much as I can.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I get to the page, and then I'm like, I come up with another idea, and then this is much better or something. Anyways, but there's always there's always new stuff. So that's what I love about My Sister Suprema. There's always something new that could challenge me on that I hadn't done yet. So yeah, so that's why I'm like just whenever I see something random, like if I see a reference or something, I'm like, I probably will draw that one day. I don't know. I have a maybe I will. So I don't know.
Well, remember the 7-page tryout script they used to give people at Marvel, Graham?
I never got one.
Oh man, it had everything that every artist hates to draw in it. That was the reason.
Oh,
It had old people, children, an airplane, cars, all kinds of stuff in it.
people in suits.
People in suits. It was a vision story. It was a 7-page vision story about a plane hijacking.
Wow.
And
I think
then
it had
they should have
all-
published everybody's different version in a giant omnibus.
Yeah.
They should have.
And not pay him
Frank,
because it was a tryout.
Tryout. I didn't promise you anything.
Yeah.
The road.
Well, I should keep my mouth shut, because they'll probably do that.
Well, have you seen these omnibuses they're putting out? Like June 1961, and it's every Marvel comic from that month. And,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They're like taking a year and month and just putting
Yeah. And
everything
they're
that
like,
came out?
like the month FF1 came out, the month Avengers 1 came out.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, I couldn't resist. They ordered them.
Wow. Where can you get those?
Amazon has them. 61 and 62 are out, and 63 is coming out.
How much are they? A couple $100?
Yeah, they're like 100 and some, but I got deals on them.
Okay.
You can hunt around on eBay and find somebody who wants to unload them.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I got to check that out.
Yeah, it's got Millie the model, Rawhide,
Yeah,
Patsy and Hetty. Everything that came out that month.
It's like I love to go to that website, Mike's Newsstand, and I plug in a year and a month, and I can see everything that was on sale that month, and it even tells you when it was released.
Yeah,
and that's really cool because like there's certain memories I have of having a certain comic, of reading it. Like when I was, let's say, on vacation in North Carolina, I remember I bought that comic there at that little local store. So what year or what month was that? Then I could look and I can see, and it frames it. It's really cool.
Well, I looked at the rundown on the June 1963, and man, it was like it was yesterday. I mean, I remember buying all of them.
Wow.
Where I bought them.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Hey, as mentioned to Anthony backstage, something I wanted to talk to you guys about is there. I don't know if you saw that article that I posted about the unions that were squashed in 1972. Neil Adams and a bunch of guys. I think Kurt Schaffenberger was involved in it. We're trying to unionize, and what's his name? Carmine was talking to Tony DeZuniga, and he went down with Joe Orlando and DeZuniga to the Philippines and brought back, cut this deal with them that DeZuniga would, host these guys, and they would do all this work to keep the guys from, forming a union.
Yeah,
have you heard that story?
Nope.
Yeah, I had heard that.
Well, let me pull this up. I can show it to you. This.
We can always talk about the IDW union. Oh no, excuse me, the Image Union. The Image Union.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The Filipino invasion.
Yeah, it was huge, and in the end, they cut their throats because as beautiful as the Philippine artwork was, readers didn't like it.
Okay, so now this comes from this article here, and now I'll show you the book, but first let's read this. Comic book unions versus outsourcing. In 1970, Neil Adams and maybe Stan Lee started the Academy of Comic Book Arts. Remember that?
Yeah.
And Carmine Infantino soon left because Adams was using it as a platform to unionize artists and demand better pay. How dare he? Original art and benefits. As per Carmine, they tried to get an AFL-CIO representative who considered comics too small time to pay attention. Stan soon left ACBA, and the artists were ready to band together for improved benefits. In 1971, Infantino was promoted to publisher, and a DC artist, Tony DeZuniga, approached Carmine and offered more Filipino artists to bring to work and to deflate the unionizing artists' momentum. Orlando and Infantino fly to the Philippines and through DeZuniga bring in Redondo, Alcala, Nino, Chan, and Tangao, and some others. DeZuniga and his wife set up the shop and accepted the payments from Carmine at DC to give to the artists. Again, as per Carmine, he would pay $50 a page, and the DeZunigas would pocket $45 and give the artists $5. This was eventually discontinued, but Carmine's goal to deflate the comic book union worked, and DC continued its status quo. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So that's that side of the story. If you read Carmine's in this book here, he talks about it, and he says it was a little bit different, that they were going to strike and they were going to shut down production at DC. And so, he went down there to hedge his bets and make sure that he had talent to make the books go on time. And when he found out about how DeZuniga was skimming all that stuff off the top, he was furious. And then he contacted, I think it was Nestor Redondo. Let me see.
It was probably Nestor because he was like the big guy there.
Yeah, he was the big guy. He and Alex Nino
They all
considered.
They all lived in New Jersey, and I used to see them all the time at like little New Jersey cons. Just go
really?
Go over the river from Philly. I knew all those guys.
Yeah. Did you ever meet Redondo?
Yeah, met Redondo a bunch of times.
Wow. Yeah,
he was all those guys.
Trying to find out where he said that. Yeah, he couldn't get any work from Nino or Redondo. He thought they were the best. And somebody came up to him at a convention and said, we're very upset with you in the Philippines because you're only paying $5 a page. He said, I told him we had a contract. We were paying $50 a page. What happened was the people running the shop, and he doesn't name them, but he means DeZuniga.
Right.
We're keeping almost all the money, and we're ripping off their own people and living like kings.
Old story.
Yeah. So he said, So he contacted Nestor Redondo and said, can you organize getting scripts and art back and forth with artists there? Because I won't deal with these crooks anymore. He agreed and handled the thing for a while, but gradually it was phased out. And then in his defense, Carmine says, however, I had covered myself with the foreign talent, and that was the end of the strike threat by the American artists. It was my job to protect the company, and that's how I did it. What do you guys think about that?
It was a different time. I don't think very highly of it.
Can you summarize that?
Yeah, it was a ripoff. I mean, especially Tony DeZuniga taking $45 of every $50 commission. That's outrageous.
Yeah, right?
That's pretty crazy.
Because he knew those guys were still living in the Philippines.
Yeah.
So their cost of living was very low.
Yeah.
I mean, if they got $50 a page down there, those guys would be living like kings.
Yeah. No, seriously. And
Yeah.
they're working their asses off because they did.
Yeah.
They were doing a lot of pages.
Yeah. I just, I understand the position that Carmine was in because, he was working for the company. He was taking a paycheck for the company. And if he didn't do something about it, they were going to strike. But by the same token, what he could have done was negotiate with them and gave them better rates. And
Negotiate?
Yeah, right. And maybe give some of the stuff that these guys were asking for. Maybe some health care, which at that point wasn't the outrageous health care costs that we have today.
Well, you remember Denny telling us that some people at DC in the 60s just asked about health insurance, and DC fired all of them just for asking.
Yes.
And that's when Dick Giordano showed up at Charlton and said, we're all going to DC. They hired all the Charlton people to fill the places of the guys they'd fired.
That's where Schaffenberger got blacklisted. He was one of those guys who had tried that because he didn't show up again at DC until the mid-1970s when he started doing Shazam.
Right. Yeah, he was missing in action for a long time.
He was doing a lot of stuff, and then he just disappeared. Yeah. And I read that's why. That's something.
Well,
people will do anything to succeed in show business, and Hollywood has showed us that time and again. And comics are like the dwarf stepchild of showbiz.
I know, it's so weird. It's so weird. Well, anyways, I was going to let you read that super chat.
Yeah, thank you. Senator John Blutarski. I love it. Thank you for that $20 super chat. That's a good cigar. I enjoyed part 1 so much. I bought so much extra for number 2. I would absolutely watch this as a movie. Looking forward to the stories to come. And The Private American is great too.
Thanks,
much
Senator.
appreciated, Senator. We need you up there on the Hill.
It's like anything made it to a movie like right now. You want to see it as a movie right now? I don't know. It's like who makes? I was like the guy who did Dragged Across Concrete. That guy.
Yeah.
Oh,
Cell
yeah.
Block. Yeah, that guy.
Zoller.
Yeah, that guy
Yeah.
seems to make anything he wants. Like he just makes it exactly the way he wants.
Yeah.
How he wants it. Now that guy needs to make Joe Frankenstein. He needs to do My Sister Suprema. Needs to do that. Like with that movie, because it's just going to get thrown through the ringer. And
Oh yeah, yeah.
and I just I mean maybe not. Maybe I don't know. Because there's always like movies that just seem to kind of make it through without having to get dinged around like these days or something like that with all these different filters.
Yeah.
But no, it's pretty crazy.
Every
Good
moron wants
movies
to
out there
be
if you know where to look.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shut the door.
Yeah. You have to look though. Yeah. That's the
Oh
problem.
yeah,
You got to work hard to find something that's really entertaining and well done. You know, it's so much tripe and so much derivative nonsense.
Yeah,
you know what I
and
mean?
the bigger the budget, the worse the movie.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
they took that Dragged Across Concrete, man. They delayed the release of that. They did not want that released. And then a couple of months ago, it shows up on Netflix, and it's #1 movie for 3 weeks.
Yeah, that movie was so good.
Yeah.
I was so because I hadn't gone to the theater. I think before 2019, before like I don't know. It's like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood came out. Like I actually like.
That was a
I
good
mean, it's
movie.
like
That was.
I saw Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and even though I think it's like the book came out like 3 years later, and it kind of filled in the gaps and everything to everything in that story because there was really a story going on, but you just enjoyed watching it so much. But
That's true about most of Tarantino's films.
right,
There really
exactly.
aren't a lot of story. It's just a
No.
lot of interesting scenes and dialogue.
Exactly. It's like it was such a breath of fresh air. It was the only movie I had seen in the last in the theater in the last 5 years, and I did take my son like about 3 weeks ago to go see Mario because he had never gone to the theater, and I was like, I got to see something. I show him something, but anyways, I hadn't gone to the theater and I hadn't seen anything for a while, and I think it was the last thing I saw was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, because again they're not making anything enough for me to spend that much money to go to the theater.
No.
Yeah.
Right. Agamemnon Fireman, thank you for that $20 super chat. That's a good cigar. Hey, Graham, back the campaign and can't wait to see you in my home state of New Jersey. I tuned in for your Romita tribute. I will say I do think Jim Shooter is overhated. I met him recently and he was very nice, at least to me. Okay. Yeah. Well, I think it's working for him. might have been different, and a lot of years can mellow you out too.
Yeah, but I think the hate for that guy was overdone too.
Yeah, I've heard you guys' history about talking about him, and I'm like, wow. I mean, I was like, he sounded like he wanted to get comics on the right track, and I don't know if it was great working under him, but I'm like, it didn't matter. It felt like it was going in the right direction, at least with what you guys were talking about. But anyways,
He made the trains run on time.
Right. Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
Perfect way to put it.
Mussolini.
Right. Yeah.
No, Jim's a sweet guy.
Yeah.
Hey, Matt Strott, thank you for that $10 super chat. Hey there, Graham. I'm late to the party, but backed Joe Frankenstein 2 the other day. When will book 1 be available to the public? P.S. Thanks to all you guys for the great comics. Well, thank you, Matt, for your support. Part 1 will be available probably next week on the Compass Comics website. So there you go.
You didn't miss anything.
I was going to ask you, Graham, are we going to see some of the X-Men art that you had? Do you have that available, or you're talking about the X-Men Forever?
I could probably dig it up if you want to entertain people with a.
Well, because I wanted to see even that Transformer stuff that you said that you did. Remember when you said that one of the first things that you got a royalty check from kind of saved you out of a
yes
tax that story about when you had to pay your taxes or something, and that royalty check came in
And then it went out.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It went right back. Yeah, okay. I
just wanted to see some of the earlier art that you had. I just wanted to. I hadn't looked hadn't looked you up to see if what it look. I saw your '90s stuff. I have the books and all that kind of stuff. Just wanted to see what even earlier stuff looked like.
Yeah, let me see if I could find some pencils. I have the inked colored version here, but let me see if I can find some pencils.
I remember Herb Trimpe was on G.I. Joe Special Missions, and he was getting tired of drawing it. So he told Larry Hama, he says, I don't want to do any more of this. And Larry's like, okay, I'll find somebody else. And that day, his royalty check for G.I. Joe Special Missions #1 came.
Oh.
And he called Larry back and said, I changed my mind.
Wow.
Yeah, but those in the mid '80s, those licensed books, man, those toys, they Transformers, G.I. Joe, Rom, they all paid good royalties.
G.I. Joe was #1 selling Marvel title. It outsold X-Men. They
Really?
never wanted to admit that, but it did.
Huh.
Yeah, I picked up the I had never had read mainstream just superhero comic books. It was all indie stuff. That's even since when I started collecting, I would just collect all the comics, the art that I liked from Marvel, DC, and I never read them. But it was always the indie stuff that I always read. And so when you suggested Chuck, when you suggested you said you didn't like X-Men, but you did you said Larry Hama's Wolverine.
Yeah.
Right? So I got that, and it was amazing. That thing was amazing.
Yeah.
So I was just here I am now in later on in my now in my 30s. I'm reading now all the superhero stuff that I stayed away from, just because I was telling Graham earlier, because you guys kind of led me in the right direction. I'm okay, here, read this, check this out. The Thor's the Mangog. What was that?
Mangog.
Yeah, that gave me I don't know. That gave me nightmare. I had a nightmare about the Mangog because of the impending. It was the impending doom. He was getting closer and closer and closer to Asgard or wherever, and and it was in my mind the whole time, and it got to me. So it was so good.
So here's the trivia question for you: how strong is Mangog? If you read the story, you'll know the answer.
Well, he was wasn't he had the strength of 1,000 million?
Oh, you're close.
No?
Yeah, you're close.
Yeah, he had the strength of 1,000. All the people that he isn't the people that he killed or absorbed, or I don't know. I don't know how he did it. I forget.
He has the power of a billion beings.
Billions. There you go. Yeah, that's what it was. I remember. Kind of.
I love it. But you're right. The way that story is paced. Do you remember that story, Mike?
Nope.
You don't remember the Mangog story? Kirby and Lee did?
I barely remember what happened last week.
He might have had Mangog as a house guest.
Prevagen.
I went out with a girl named Mangog.
All right, let's see this.
There we go.
Mangog. Oh yeah, sounds familiar. I dated her. Yeah.
So here's I couldn't find the pencil, so here's the finished pages. Nice. Oh, there's that guy.
Oh, that's cool.
Night Creeper.
Yeah. And there's that girl with the gray hair.
Yeah, and the southern accent.
Yeah, that's her.
Go back to the blue skin guy, chin thing. Yeah. So that's the angle you got there with the under the chin. That's I love the low angle that shot. That's really great, because that's always the hardest thing for me to get every single time, because I love low angles. I love the way those shots always go. If you see My Sister Suprema, it's filled with the camera's right, it's low all the time, and I'm always practicing that, and that looks really good. That's a really good under the chin shot there.
Gil Kane did a whole book about under the chin shots.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
He was the master.
He was the master of drawing the nostrils.
I gotta write that down. Hold on.
But look how much real estate Graham blocks out with that big head. So you didn't have to
Yeah,
call
right.
it a check.
Hey, I have.
I remembered who was writing it. I needed a lot of copy area.
I have Wally Wood's. The 22 panels that work thing.
Yeah.
I don't really follow it. I don't know. You don't. It's like Chuck. You don't have dialogue that just like if you're not like going on and on or something. You know what I mean?
No, I really don't do a lot of yakety yak scenes.
Right. It's like So it really worked for all wide shots, like for my Sister Suprema.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
Yeah, I gotta find the pencil pages.
That stuff is great. It just doesn't look X-Men. It looks like your X-Men. It looks like your approach. It looks unlike anything else that's ever been done with those characters.
That was good.
That's perfect. That's how I wanted it.
There you go. You succeeded, my friend.
Now, how long did it take for you for each page?
Oh my gosh, it was a long time ago. I was probably I was averaging back then 1.5 pages to 2 pages a day.
Whoa. Whew. Okay.
Yeah. That's how you make it in the periodical business, kid. Back then, yeah.
You got to be able to draw a page a day if you want to make a living at it.
Oh yeah.
You see, I grew up in the the Jackass era, so I have no like sense of like what is it? I'm just learning this. I'm like hearing all this history about all these guys, about you guys, about how scheduled, like, and how to stick to them and calendars. And I'm like, what? So I didn't grow up with like this literacy and you know what I mean, like in how to manage your day, and it didn't happen. So it's like I was just on the cusp of like what was it? You were still allowed to say gay, in public and everything, and it was just on the cusp, like, of all that stuff. And so, I don't know, I didn't learn anything, financial literacy, scheduling, business, nothing. So it's only in the last, like 5 years, probably in the last 2 years, really putting it together. So I'm just thinking about, I'm like 2 pages a day. I mean, I'm capable of that. I have done that with, I didn't tell you, Graham, about Seasons, but I did that with Seasons. I did 2 pages a day on that, 2 pages a day. And I finished out about 25, it was like 20 something pages or something like that. But that was just pencils and inks, and that was it. That was a black and white comic. And I know I was capable of it. And
you were doing 2 pages of pencils and inks a day?
Yeah.
Oh, I was talking about just pencils.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, page and a half just for pencils.
So I got to show you what I did then. It's like eventually, but anyways, with that, so I was doing, I was just like, well, it was like, because I had to do it so fast, it was like thumbing it out, figuring out that I had to spend the time like thumbing everything, and then getting the page together was sort of like really scratch, and then I inked. So I did more ink than I did pencil, I think. That's how it went. So it's really,
I mean, if you're going to ink your own work, a lot of times you don't have to pencil so tight, you know, which is nice. Then you can do a lot of the drawing and stuff in the ink and keep it energetic. All right, let's give us a little timpani music here and see where we're at. When we first clocked in here, we were at 8105, and we are currently at 81.585. Excellent. Picked up some more backers. Beautiful.
Nice.
Santiago, First Comics owns the Badger.
What's that?
A guy in the chat says, Mike, who owns nowadays First Comics characters?
Oh, who does?
Ken Levin.
Oh,
it's down to one person now, because it used to be like an army of lawyers.
Well, Rick Obadiah died.
Okay.
Oh, that's right. He was the guy at first. Yeah, I forgot about that. That's a good question. So, does he? Are any of your characters under that umbrella, Mike?
The Badger.
Oh, so you don't own that?
No.
Oh.
However, I'm going to do a Big Badger graphic novel. It's about it's written And the only reason that you haven't heard about it is because I have so much in the pipeline. I can only crowdfund one book at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Who's drawing it? No, I'm just kidding. Sorry.
Oh my God! It's another Sergio.
Right.
I know he's drawing. I'm drawing a blank here. Geraldo Borges. Geraldo Borges. If you Google him, your mind will be blown. Lives in Argentina.
Oh, very cool. All right, let me go back here. Just to if anybody's tuning in or you end up watching this after it's live, you'll still have a few hours to back it. But it's a pretty simple campaign. You have a choice of two covers, which we have the Double Trouble. The one on the right is by Anthony. The one on the left is by me. The Fulfillment Queen, Julie, you can buy her a glass of wine. She needs one, believe me.
Yep.
She has to work with me. It's tough enough. You can buy the single issues themselves, or you can get the CGC graded ones. And those will be signed by both Chuck and I, and they'll ship directly from CGC to you. So those are going to take extra time to get to you. But there's no stretch goals in this. We're not going in demand. Everything comes with it. So the bookmark, the sticker, all that automatically comes with it. And the pages have already been upgraded to spot UV, upgraded paper, all that good stuff. So when you get number one, you're going to feel the quality of it and how nice it is. So,
and the lettering is so much better.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Which is one of the main reasons we went ahead and did this is once the rights reverted back to Chuck and I, we never got the print files from IDW, but we had the full color files. So we decided we were going to get Carlos Manuel to re-letter everything for us. So I sent him the dialogue script, and he re-lettered and did new sound effects and everything, and it's infinitely much better. Oh my gosh. When you realize just how bad those word balloons were, and it sounds like a silly thing, but if you compare them, you'll see how one is so much easier to read, how much one has more impact. I mean, just the word balloons for the monster himself were just regular old word balloons. Now he has kind of like Swamp Thing, his own word balloon, shape and color. So it's the monster speaking. I mean, it's little things like that that really make it really cool.
Yeah, letterers are the unsung heroes of comics. You know bad lettering when you see it, even if you don't realize it.
Yeah, and I was like, when you guys went over that, both of you, about the lettering, I started taking. I lettered Seasons, my first big gig that I did, and I did a very terrible job. And then I did it again later on. And I started really focusing on it. And then it wasn't until I started hearing you guys talking about lettering, and there's all these people, all these guys are really good at it. They're really well known for their lettering, and I just looked into it more and more because even before that, as I was working on it, I was like, man, because I was reading a lot of manga, and the way that they really incorporate the lettering to the art and how they place it isn't just slapdash or. It's just placed in there. It's like there's a real focus to it. It goes with the art. And I really, really got into that. And I started kind of doing that kind of thing. And then it wasn't until again, what you guys were talking about, this history of some of these letterers, and who really, I didn't know that everybody kind of, I don't know, didn't think about it. I'm like, how did they do it? How did they, type it in, or, they had to hand everything. And so that's the real, that's the real deal. Another guy was following, he made his own stuff, his own letter, made his own font. And I started doing that kind of stuff. But anyways, it just cost a lot of money to do that.
There it is. Cool. That's lettering on the board.
Steve Rude does his own lettering.
Does he?
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
And he has to, because if he were paying by the word, he could afford. Let me show you some more.
That's why letterers love me. I
Oh, yeah.
Talk a lot.
Here's another one. Geez, I wish I could get that in focus, but anyhow, the point is that there's a lot of words on that page, a whole
Yeah.
lot of
Bring it
words.
closer, like bring it close to the camera.
Move it over to your right. There you go.
There you go.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can go a little closer, I think.
Yap.
Yeah, that's in focus. Good.
Cool.
Yeah.
So did Rude write that script?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Oh, wait, here's a better one.
Oh my God.
That's a Don McGregor script.
No, there's not a lot of long, tedious captions.
Gregory L. Levitri says a letterer is like a comic book is like a bassist in a band.
That's a good analogy, Greg.
Yeah. I'll tell you,
Yeah.
nothing will make your work look more amateurish than bad lettering.
Yeah.
I don't care
So-
how good the drawing looks. You put bad lettering on there, and it looks just horrible.
You
Horrible.
put
Yeah,
good lettering on bad art, and it looks like clever and ironic.
Yeah, it looks like professional, like it was done that way. Yeah. But you know who wouldn't use bad lettering is this guy right here.
Under no circumstances would I ever use bad lettering.
No.
Do you letter yourself, Aaron?
I do special effects lettering myself, but I don't do like the word balloon stuff. In fact, I did bringing this great story up here, just the idea that the bad lettering. I did this Gen 13 bootleg way back in the Image days, right? And I put in a bunch. It was a Scooby-Doo story, so I had a lot of special effect type lettering that I wanted a specific way, but I knew I wasn't good enough to do it at that point. So I just kind of blocked it in, and it was really crappy. Well, so they turned it over to the letterer, and all she did was ink what I put on there. And it looked horrible, and I was just mortified. I was like, "You're supposed to be a letterer. You're supposed to fix it."
I miss lettering on the boards.
Me too.
When you look at original art and it doesn't have the words, it's not quite the same. It's that marriage of words and pictures that make comics so special.
That's true.
When did they start putting in like computer, like typing it in and like copy paste it in?
10 years ago.
No, longer than that.
More than that.
Yeah,
Come
more
on,
than that.
Mike, would you been in cryogenic?
What year is it?
Yeah, they were pasting in pre-done lettering in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
I had some books in the 90s that were getting cut and paste, lettering on it.
Right.
So it started a while ago, and it's I miss having pages with people's heads covered up by just mountains of dialogue.
Yeah, right.
Oh,
Exhibit A.
Chuck, you would know, and Graham too. I can't remember which one. It was a Marvel comic that Kirby drew, and Stan Lee just had so much dialogue it covered up everybody's face in the panel.
That was every book.
Oh yeah, you may be right.
Yeah, I'm trying. I got Fantastic Four. I'm reading it to my son, and I can't get past page 1. I just there's so much dialogue on some of these pages. But I'll skim it and still act it out, and I'll know what's going
fatiguing,
on.
Wow.
isn't it? You get through about 5 pages of just tons of word balloons, and you're like,
Well, you know what it is? I think
Mike.
these modern writers that write that way. I'm not talking about like the guys like McGregor and the older guys, but the modern guys think that they're all Quentin Tarantino, and that every piece of dialogue they have to say is so interesting, when in fact it's not. It's, as you said, Chuck, it's tedious. It's just you're taking me out of the moment. You're not moving the narrative. Or you're not giving me anything about the character that's speaking.
Right.
Just seeing a page like that is a turnoff. It's looking like at a block of Soviet housing.
I know it's so right. It's like every time if I'll skim it. I skim I just skim through it. I kind of read a word here and there, and if there's too much, I've always been like that. And if there was too much dialogue, I couldn't. I couldn't read it. I just kind of like read a letter and I got
That's
this.
right. It stops the reader cold. Just
Or I
stops
look
the
at the
reader cold.
pictures and I'm like, okay, I understand by the pictures what's going on here. All right, whatever. And like, if I miss something, I'll go back and kind of skim it a little bit more. But I was going to ask you, Chuck, about have you ever read David Gemmell? You ever heard of that author?
I've heard of him, but I've never read him.
Okay, well, I was going to say, because you were talking about like the fantasy novels and stuff like that, and like they're just too long or something. So I was going to say that it's like David Gemmell is like you with comics. It's like he's so short. Like every fantasy novel, straight to the point. Everything is like, and it ends like it just, and then he goes on to a whole bunch of new characters in the next novel. So you think that you love these characters so much in less than 400 pages. And you want to see more of them, but you don't. And it's like that every single time. So I was like, I just want to know if you ever read from him. And I do recommend that you do look up David Gemmell, read like his Regante series or something, the fantasy novel stuff. It's fantastic. Straight to the point, like really good fantasy stuff. And he just gives you exactly what you need. And dialogue's great, all that kind of stuff. So anyways, but I just wanted
Mark Alessi used to try to get me to read David Gemmell because he loved him. And he always said, this guy writes like you. And he would even give me books, but I didn't read them.
I'm telling you, it's like it's exactly in your wheelhouse. Exactly, you should be reading like that book. I got all this stuff one after another. It's like one thing after another with David Gemmell. I got my wife finally to read it, and she couldn't put it down. She read. It's so hard to get her to read something, and like she couldn't put down. She read it's a Regante series, and it's like there's 4 books in the series. She read right through it. It's my favorite series. I'll reread it over and over again. But and so anyways, but yeah.
Yeah, maybe I'll give it a shot because I took Alessi's recommendation with a grain of salt because he was a big Isaac Asimov fan too.
Oh geez, I can't. I cannot. I've tried. I got his books and I started reading them and I just.
That's like watching paint dry.
That's funny.
I got a question for Michael and Chuck here. Do you guys? I mean, you have to, don't you think, as comic book writers, that you have to learn to understand the economy of the word and dialogue and understand that. I mean, sometimes you type like a couple lines of dialogue and you think, well, that's not that long, but then you see it on a page and it's like freaking, it takes up half the panel and you're like, I got to cut half this stuff and still get my point across.
Every time I look at anything I've written, I pare it down some more.
Yeah.
Great.
Because you see so much of it, like Graham had alluded to earlier. You're getting all this real verbose, I guess, writing in comics these days, and it's like, dude, you could have said this in 3 words instead of a page, or a couple of sentences,
and it would have had more impact.
Yeah.
And
now you're getting that stream of consciousness dialogue.
Yes. That's
like
exactly
a person, they got 18 balloons and are all cascading down because the writer is just vomiting out his own thoughts and he's not putting the words of these characters in any meaningful way on the page.
Well, he's not entertaining.
Yeah, he's not entertaining.
He's got a chip on his shoulder.
You have to understand the real estate that you have on the page. There's only so much room. And you don't want to be covering stuff up.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Mike. I mean, I know he doesn't write this way anymore, but he used to actually draw the layouts.
I do. That's how I wrote comics for 20 years. I do every page.
Yeah. And I wanted to be a comic artist, so I drew hundreds of pages. They were all crap, but at least I understood.
Can you see?
They were better than mine, Chuck.
Well, Giffen does that too, right? Usually.
Chuck, can we see those pages?
No. Well, yeah. You go to go to chuckdixon.net. I put some stuff up.
No, but I want to see the ones that you're embarrassed about. I don't know. I want to see.
Man.
I'm embarrassed by all of it.
Yeah.
That's how Harvey Kurtzman did it too.
That's true.
Yeah.
So,
and
I'm putting in. Yeah, I'm putting in a lot of what I'm learning from all these other letterers into what I eventually will be. The My Sister Suprema. Print. When we finally get to that point.
Right.
So what Chuck? What did you think of my lettering? Did you see that?
I thought it was good. I mean, you understand the story, so It's amazing. I know a lot
Put
of
it up. We'll critique it.
Yeah, you go. Yeah, I won't be too uncomfortable. I mean, I know a lot of letterers, and letterers will actually admit I'm not actually reading the script. They have no sense of what's going on, even though they're lettering the story.
Let's see.
Which is how you would end up with repeated phrases. They would like answer the phone and forget where they were and just letter the same thing. I saw that all the time in the 90s.
I still got to color this cover.
Mm-hmm.
But there's that. So this was this wasn't in the original. Like I redrew the monster and I redrew the sound effect and everything because it was like the way I drew My Sister Suprema. I drew it all like in wide screens, like they're all wide because it was made specifically for ArcToons. And I don't know what I was thinking because I should have done it. Like I didn't do it like a page. I didn't do it like I didn't draw it like a traditional page. And so I did it specifically so everything. So the first like couple of pages are like splash pages. So like this, like here, this one.
Oh, I love the lighting on that.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay, lettering.
Oh yeah, lettering. So
okay.
This one here, the BAM.
Yeah. Can you Command plus and blow up that word balloon or that word box, caption box?
Yeah, hold on, I don't know what your Command plus is.
Are you on an Apple or? Oh, there you go.
I'm on a desktop.
Okay, there you go.
What do you want me to do?
Now move it up so I can see the caption box.
Oh, the cat right here. The caption right here.
Okay. There's not enough air around the words. See, the box is too tight to the words. A caption box and a word balloon need to breathe more. So you want those words floating in there, not being constrained.
Okay.
That makes that harder to read.
Okay.
Okay, and then on the next page, how you have that, I think it's the caption box. They used to call those hot dogs.
Hot dogs?
Yeah, like it should be I don't like, and then comic books centered under it, so you have a nice square.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, it makes it just more aesthetically pleasing to read, and again, more space around the caption boxes.
And then this part here.
That's cool.
That's a sound. That's like a sound effect or something.
Yeah, he's
that's
like,
cool.
I love. Yeah.
I like that. That's really cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Like that part there. And then you see Merville.
Oh, Merville.
I didn't catch that before.
Oh, you didn't? You didn't?
No.
I was like, I don't know if we're gonna get like in trouble if I
Merville.
So what about these here? What about same thing? Just
yeah. You just need more air around them. And that's something you see in most comic books today is this stuff is so tight like that. Now those word balloons look pretty good.
Yeah, the word balloons look nice.
Yeah, that's a nice bit of air around them.
So what about the I and when it says it's for school, it's for a school project. So the I on that, so am I supposed to capitalize that like that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
When the I is the beginning of a sentence or it's a standalone word, it's capitalized. If it's in a word, like say, what time is it? The I in time would be a lowercase.
Okay.
Meaning no serif would be a sans serif.
Okay. So the whispering in this, like the right here for this dialogue box, is that good for the whispering? Like he's just kind of talking to himself, like really low. Is that?
That's the way they used to do it. The kind of dashes. I don't know that holds up.
Okay.
I know. I think a lot of things they do now is they drop back the opacity on it, maybe to make it, so it's not as hard, meaning that it's softer.
Or they'd make the lettering a little bit smaller than what the rest of the type would be. Looks like you did that though.
Yeah, it looks like you did that.
Yeah, I made it a little tinier. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what he's
talking
about in that thing.
Yeah, I think the dashes are a little confusing. They don't. Yeah, no, these word balloons look great. Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. And there was
perfect. It's mostly the caption boxes, really.
Okay. So and then this right here, the rumble, like something like that. like it's just supposed to be off in the distance. I lowered the opacity and it's kind of rumbling.
I like
or
it.
whatever.
That works for me.
Yeah.
Okay. And then it's like I think so like this, like the when he's pressing the buttons on the phone,
Yep.
they just kind of like
Yeah, you go for more of a manga lettering feel, which I like. I mean, it
Mhm.
suits this project perfectly.
Yeah. Yeah, like a sound effect should be incorporated into, either the meaning of it or the artwork itself. And
Cool.
I think you do a great job with those.
Cool. All right.
Yeah.
Oh, and
Yeah.
I didn't do the eye on this one here. I see, but I was going to say that this right here. I asked my wife. I said when I was looking at the script, I said, if you knew your brother had the phone in the bathroom, I said, what would you do? Like, would you just kind of, because in the script, Chuck said, she put her ear to the door. But I said, if you really wanted your phone, if he took your phone and you thought he had your phone, what would you do? She said, I'd look under the door. So I put her, I had her look under the door instead.
I like that.
Yeah.
And it's a good shot. It's like
That's a nice touch.
Yeah.
Anthony brings so much to this. I'm eternally grateful. I mean, I'm going to make it funny, and he makes it so much funnier with what he does.
Yeah.
So there you go. So I was just like, yeah, well, thanks, Chuck. I was like, it really did bring it out. It was a lot of fun to work with this, and I was always thinking, like, are you going to tell me to redraw this? Like, hey, it didn't say this. It didn't say to do that.
No, I'm
I
not.
think you're going to do that.
No, I mean, if you didn't tell me about that, I would have thought of her lying on the floor. I don't compare the script to the art. If it comes in and it reads great, it reads great.
Cool.
Right. That's the best way to do it.
Oh yeah, I learned that too from Chuck. The Clint and Flick thing. I was like, yeah.
Remember Scott Peterson at DC wanted to do a comic called Clint Flicker.
He did not.
He did. Clint
Really?
Flicker, Cub Reporter. Yeah. Or at least he said he did.
Clint Flicker.
Private eye.
I just posted your campaign on my page, and I'm going to pump it on Twitter, and then I'm going to bail.
Okay.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Hey, thanks, Mike.
Always good to see
Thanks
you.
for your support,
Yeah,
Joe.
Mike.
Yep.
So, I don't know if you want to go over more letter critiquing. I don't know. I'm like,
I don't think you need it. I think I
sweet.
think you got it. I mean, you get every one of the word balloons looks perfect.
All right.
Sound effects look great. It was really just those caption boxes.
You like my blur effects, Chuck?
I like it when you do it. I don't like it when most colorists do it.
All right, cool.
They overuse it, but it doesn't make you look at it's a blur effect, which I hate because it's like, okay, you just left the story.
Right.
But you do it, appropriate.
Yeah, I try not to do it often. I just like, I think I try to just do something different. Try to do something different every time.
You're throwing so many different things at this, but it works for this series. It works perfectly.
So like this one here, like when she's showing, she's like, "Hey, Randy," it's like blurred out here, and he's like, "Huh?"
Yeah, well, it gives it this cinematic look, like we're looking at a camera and the focal plane is different.
Yeah. And I relettered this whole thing here, and I didn't like the way I did it before or something, but anyways. Cool. All right.
Good. Yep.
Excellent.
All right.
There you go. Stop
Dr.
sharing.
Mask is giving great advice here. Back Graham's other campaign that goes to Metacomba Key.
I just forgot about that. You've been running all these other little, smaller, not little, but smaller campaigns. And
I know.
Graham likes that.
Yeah. Dr. Mask is a good friend of the show. But so I got a question for Anthony here because I know Chuck's favorite monster is the Wolfman, the werewolf, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Mine is Frankenstein. Aaron, yours is Frankenstein too, right?
Karloff, Frankenstein, yeah.
Right? Well, please, there's no other.
All right. Well, there is Glenn Strange, and there is
that's
Ghosty,
true.
Well, there is, yes, but there isn't.
Yes, you're right.
Which, by the way, I just watched Ghost of Frankenstein recently. That's the
Glenn
first
Strange,
one,
right?
What's that?
Well, that's Glenn Strange, right? Or was that?
No, that's Lon Chaney.
Oh, that's right. Lon Chaney
Yeah,
did it too.
He's the first one to take over after Karloff. And he's actually, I watched that again and I'm like, you know what? He's actually pretty good. He's pretty visceral, as Chaney always is. Very, violent and stuff. I except for a few pounds that he could have lost, he's sort of the well-fed monster. But
to me, it all goes back to the look. And
Yeah.
the face never looked as good, except when Karloff everybody else was, his nose is too big, or this isn't right, or that isn't, like you said, he's a little too chubby, whatever. But Karloff had that gaunt, dead looking face that was so perfect.
Especially
Not
in the
just
first
Frankenstein, but the Mummy and just about anything he did.
Yeah. And Glenn Strange, as far as a look, I mean, he never got to do anything. He was sort of just an automaton. As far as a look goes, he's the best look after Karloff, Glenn Strange.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but he's the most iconic one. They use his image so much, but still,
it's like they used it for Karloff's obituary.
Jeez.
Yeah, I know, right?
Oh, man.
So now the finger's pointed at you, Anthony.
Wait, so are we talking about old monster movies?
Yeah.
Oh, it was Wolfman.
Oh, you're
All right.
okay. So we got
I
upper
grew
and lower
up
Frankensteins and upper and lower
and it's close. It's the Mummy is real close. So but it's because of the creepy, slow kind of mummy thing. Was like you just didn't know. You look back and he's getting closer and closer. It was just always like that with me as a kid. But I grew up with Monster Squad, and so Wolfman's got nards kind of thing, and it was like that. And Monster Squad was I watched that all the time when I was a kid. And so Wolfman was it was the favorite looking. It was so much scarier looking. I don't know. I loved the way that they made it look.
That was Stan Winston who did all those.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll have to go back.
Hey, thank you, Daydreamer, for the $1.99 super chat. Love you, Graham. Glad I could back in time. Me too. Thank you. Oh, and Eric the Guapo has a $5 super chat. Graham, is there a plan in the near or semi-near future to work with Chuck on a Rippaverse book? I never say never. Eric's wanted me to do something with him, but it's sort of just a question of time management. Got a lot of stuff.
We got to get a cover out of you at least.
I'm definitely going to do a cover for you guys. Yeah, I'll definitely do a cover. But
I heard they were someone was talking about me on your talk last night.
Yeah. It was this guy, not Anthony Gonzalez Clark. I don't know if you know him or not. And, he was very curious about whether Anthony Gonzalez Clark was going to get to do a cover.
It was me. It was like,
oh, it was?
In disguise.
I had no idea. How could I know that?
I got you both.
Oh, well, we have another vote here from Agamemnon Fireman. The Invisible Man is my favorite Universal monster. I love the Invisible Man too. And Frankenstein in second. And my favorite classic non-Universal monster is Frederick Mark's Jekyll and Hyde, or Jekyll, as they said in the movie.
Jekyll.
I like the Jekyll in Jekyll from in The Page Master. You ever seen that movie, The Page Master?
No.
He's an animated version of the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So it's Mr. Hyde, the monster. Yeah. So
I think a more important question is, so you guys, when you say the Wolfman, are you talking about just werewolves in general, or are you talking specifically about Lon Chaney as the Wolfman being your favorite?
I like werewolves in general. But
Okay.
if you're talking about the Universal monsters, it's Wolfman.
Okay.
I like the Wolfman, and I like Lawrence Talbot. I thought he was a sharp dresser.
Oh, yeah.
When I was a kid, man, I wanted that black shirt and white tie. He had Abbott Costello meet Frankenstein.
He was a ladies' man in that movie.
Yeah.
He was a chick scammer.
Yeah, he had that tweed sport coat. It's like, man, that's cool.
I loved when he's tied up in the wife beater shirt. He turns into Wolfman, and he's got a nice, fine button-down dark shirt on. he's walking through the woods, or when
got dressed. Well, it's like that scene in Werewolf of London where Henry Hole turns into a werewolf and puts his hat and coat on before he goes out.
Yes. I love that. I love that werewolf. I mean,
that makeup. That's my favorite. That is my favorite look.
The scarf.
Is Henry Hole's werewolf.
That's a good look.
It is a great look.
American Werewolf in London.
Yeah.
That's the Stick to the Road.
No, that's American Werewolf in London.
American Werewolf in London.
We're talking
Yeah.
about, was it
We're talking about
1931?
Werewolf of London.
32.
Oh, Werewolf of London. I was like, huh? I was like, where's this suit thing? I was like, okay.
Yeah,
I
like
didn't realize that
1930.
He puts on a hat just like this and an overcoat and goes out and kills.
Yeah,
He looks good while he's doing it.
loves Best.
Do you think he got like blood all over his coat and stuff? That's an expensive coat to be getting blood all over.
Well, as Warren Zevon said, I'd like to meet his tailor.
That's exactly right. His hair was perfect. I also
Talbot,
like. Go ahead.
Lawrence Talbot as a character in the first Wolfman movie is just a wonderful character. He's this go-getter. He'd been educated in America. He comes home because his brother's been killed, and he's got to take over the estate for this like dictatorial father played by Claude Rains, who, by the way, I don't believe for 1 second was the father of Lon Chaney Jr.
So his mother must have been huge.
His mother must have been a giant. But be that as it may,
I got good-looking kids. A good thing my wife runs around.
You must have been something before electricity.
Martha just said, "What do you have?" I said, "Surprise me. Show me a naked picture of my wife."
Yeah, exactly. Man, Rodney Dangerfield. Oh gosh, those are
great
I
stuff.
watched
My wife at my bachelor party. She was in the movie.
Oh shit, that's good.
Oh, that's good.
But the Talbot character, you see him getting beaten down, and he gets this curse, and it's a horrible thing, and he feels terrible, and just to watch him transition, from this happy-go-lucky guy to who doesn't believe in this kind of shit to having it forced upon him is really great. And I think it's one of Chaney's best performances.
Yeah, I rewatched it recently, and it was way better than I'd remembered it. And I just thought this is actually a really good movie. I was going to say I also
Great
like
cast.
Oliver, huh?
Great cast. I mean,
yeah.
my God.
Bela Lugosi as Bela, the gypsy,
Right.
so he wouldn't forget his name. Okay, Bella, you're going to play Bela,
Right.
spelled exactly the same. I liked also Oliver Reed's makeup in Curse of the Werewolf, which of course is I'm so thankful Chuck doesn't drink. Bo Smith.
We're all thankful for that, Bo.
Yeah, you don't want that.
And Bo, by the way, he votes for Creature for the Black Lagoon.
Of course.
Yeah.
That's his guy.
I was gonna say, like in Monster Squad, that's what I saw. Anything close to like the old monsters and stuff like that. And I loved every single one of those characters. It was like the way they designed and everything. I didn't know. I just looked it up. I was like, Stan Winston, he did Pumpkinhead too.
Yeah.
Like, those were the monsters. Like I was gonna say like Pumpkinhead, like when I was a kid, and it was aliens and all that kind of stuff. Like those were the ones. Like I loved all those. Those were the movies those are some of the first horror movies I ever saw. And
I love it when you talk to people and they go, "Yeah, Pumpkinhead when I was a little kid scared me." I'm like, "Yeah, I think I was 30."
Yeah, right.
I had the writer of that movie, Gary Girani, on my 31 Days of Monster show one time.
Really?
Because Gary used to write for the Monster Times, and that was my Bible as a kid, you know. And when I saw that, I contacted him on a Monster Times Facebook page and invited him on, and he came on, and then he told me that he wrote Pumpkinhead and he'd written some other screenplays and all that kind of stuff. It was really cool. Really good guy.
Wow. Loved Monster Times.
Oh,
if it weren't for Karloff, The Creature from the Black Lagoon would be my favorite. Would be second, but I just love Karloff so much. I have to.
Boom.
Look at that.
82,
Wow.
bro.
All right.
Nice.
That.
We're actually accomplishing something here.
We
Yeah.
are.
It's so surprising.
It was those jokes. People started tuning in for your Rodney Dangerfield impression.
That's right.
Tell us more.
So
I said to my son, someday you'll have kids of your own. He said, you too.
One of my favorite Benny Hill lines was he would lean over to his wife and go, good night, mother of 7. And she'd go, good night, father of 3.
Oh, that's great.
My wife and I were happy for 20 years. Then we met. I was gonna say that I think I did a really good job with this. So the second cover, because I remember when Dan Lawless saw the first cover, you showed the cover to everybody. I think I was like 4 people were on the stream, and Dan was like stone face.
Hey, everybody, if you're saying hi because Ethan sent you over here, don't say hi. Go back the book. How about that? I don't need your highs. Just back the book.
You know, when I was
stand-up person, not a follower.
We were doing Graybeards on Wednesday. You were apparently, Graham, were streaming like a Romita tribute thing or something against us. And Eric the Guapo said, I don't know, he said something, and then he said, I'm going to go over and watch Graham's stream. And I said, let me help you get there faster. And I cannonballed him. So I'm with you, man. It's like, you come onto your channel, you need respect from the peeps, man. Back Graham's book. That's what you're here for.
Here we go. Here's a guy who already backed it. Oh, where'd he go? Oh, there we go. Thank you, Paul. You're a mensch.
Mm-hmm. Reenie versus Graham right now.
Reenie versus Graham. Oh yeah, I was saying Dan Lawless looked at my first cover and he had no expression. And then when you showed him the cover for part 2, he was like, ooh. So I knew I did a good job. I was trying to get out. That's what it was. I was trying to out Dan Lawless. I was trying to do something.
You don't want to out Dan Lawless. I don't think he wants people to know.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh
my goodness. Well, so Graham, after if you get these Frankenstein, how far are you, or how close I should say, are you to finishing Ghosts of Matacumba Key?
I'm past the halfway mark. I'm at 34 pages complete.
So I should have asked it this way. When is your anticipated release date?
Well, originally it was August.
Mm-hmm.
But I want people to read 1 and 2 first. And I probably won't get it finished by August. Because so much stuff has been pulling me in different directions. But I'm not going to sacrifice. I mean, I could get it done. I could, buckle down and go old DC school on it. But that's not what the backers want, So, right. I'll take my time. I'll get it right. And then when it comes out, it comes out. But Chuck and I, this is a good time to mention this because Chuck and I are working on, we're going to be starting up the script for the next Joe Frankenstein. And we have chosen the artist to draw it, and he happens to be just below Chuck right now. Mr. Anthony Clark is gonna draw the next Joe Frankenstein book for us.
Oh,
which he's just finding out about now.
So I actually emailed him earlier.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
you're just lucky you didn't get a letter from NASA this morning or something.
Right.
I mean, this is a great strategy. Release the already published stuff in the collected editions, get everybody up to speed, and then you hit them with some new material.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Great.
Exactly. And while Anthony's doing that, I'll be working on I'll be releasing Return to Monster Island and working on the third part of that trilogy, Escape from Monster Island.
Wow.
So,
we've already got a killer opening for the next Joe Frankenstein. So.
Nice.
Wow. Well, I'm really excited. I really appreciate that. It's really great. Yeah, I love the story. I think I read it. I was reading it over and over again because I was working on a bunch of stuff for it. But I was really, really loving the story. So I really love what you guys did with that, and that was just fantastic. When you guys told me that, I was just like, "Huh?" So, that was awesome.
Yeah.
So,
well, we're big fans of your work, bud. So you did such a great job on the covers too. So it's like this guy gets it. So
yeah.
It took me a long time to get it.
It's in good hands, people.
Yeah.
Do we have
Right.
do we have a Chanu plushie update, Graham? I keep
Well,
seeing that guy over your shoulder, and I keep wanting one.
no, there he is.
I think, yeah.
Don't get your hand near his mouth.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, dealing with toy companies and stuff and manufacturing, it's like nothing ever comes when they say it is. Because they said mid-June is when I should have them, and it's mid-June, and I don't have them.
Haven't got them. Well, so you're actually at the stage where you're waiting for them to be delivered.
Yes.
At this point. So everything. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Cool.
I'm waiting for them to tell me manufacturing is complete, and to get ready to ship.
Were those part of a campaign? Did I miss that?
No.
Or, okay. So have people been able to order them yet, or are you waiting till you get them in? Okay.
I'll wait till I get them in. I ordered X amount, and so they're going to be a limited edition, and that's all there is.
Okay.
So, Pierre, $5 super chat. Thank you. Hi, Graham Nolan. I backed it earlier today, 1658. Sent there from Ripa and Chuck's stream yesterday. Oh, excellent. Excellent. Thank you. EVS sent me here today. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, EVS. And thank you, Pierre, for coming in.
All right. Cool.
Shinu needs a squeaky inside him.
We get like some sort of like monster howl or something when you squeeze him. He goes,
yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah,
that would be cool. Yeah, it's like these things. It's like, do you remember these?
Yeah.
These squishy monster heads?
No.
You broke my brain.
Could you hear that?
How old are those? I don't remember those.
I think there's a copyright on here.
You're gonna make me break out a toy.
Do it. It's got to be from the 90s.
Okay.
Got to be from the 90s.
Do you remember those little busts that came with the CD collection of the Universal Monster films? Oh.
Beware the curse of... I'm telling my mummy on you.
I'm telling my mummy on you. Oh, this one's for Chuck. Here we go.
Oh.
Ow, ow, all right, I'll fetch the paper, but you get your own slippers.
Could you hear that?
What?
Here, hold on.
Ow, ow, all right, I'll fetch the paper, but you get your own slippers.
I'll fetch the paper. Okay.
You get your own slippers.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorites.
Oh.
Is that Patrick Warburton's voice?
Yes, it is.
That's
awesome.
great.
Hey, is that from that's the Fox
The Tick
version, right?
Yeah.
Like the
live action version. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because they just did one recently for Prime, right? And I did not like that one at all. It was
I didn't like it either. It was too grim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like the cartoon, and then there was they did it for Fox for like one season.
Yeah. That's where the Patrick Warburton.
Yeah, he did a good job of that.
He did a great job.
Wasn't that
He was
that pilot
awesome.
episode?
I love that guy.
That pilot episode, didn't it have the communist robot that was going to kill Jimmy Carter or something in it that was programmed to kill Jimmy Carter? You guys
I don't remember that.
Something like that, yeah. That was nuts. But when they did it for Prime, they made it like Watchmen. It's like, this isn't funny.
Yeah.
It was too grim.
That cartoon, man, was must-see TV Saturday morning.
God, that was awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Loved that.
Yeah, it was
cartoon.
great.
So yes, the answer, Santiago, is I love the Aurora model kits. Did you guys build those?
I built all of them.
Yeah.
You
Aaron,
tried.
Did you build them? You
I
didn't?
tried, man.
Oh,
I
you
always screwed them up.
tried.
Could
Some
never.
of them were hard,
Well, I was younger than you, Graham, by a few years, so I would see those things. I was too young to be trying to put together models by myself. Let me just put it that way. But they were too cool to pass up, and they had those. Remember, they also had the Marvel ones like Spider-Man, and on that staircase webbing was he Doc Ock or something to the floor? I can't remember exactly.
Craven the Hunter.
Craven. That's
the
right.
Hunter,
That's
yeah.
right. It's
Yeah, I
Craven.
built that one. Yeah, Man from Uncle,
yeah.
King Kong. That was a great kit.
Oh yeah, they had Hulk. You know, Hulk.
Yeah.
He's coming at you like this, like he's John L. Sullivan.
So these are like
Coming
model
through the
kits.
wall.
These are model kits that you guys put together.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they were 98 cents when I was a
yeah.
kid.
Yeah.
They were. I remember getting Creature from the Black Lagoon, and I painted him with metallic green paint, so he always looked wet.
Yeah, all of the stuff. It's like this. It's so crazy. It's like some of the stuff. It's like you guys are like bringing up, and I'm like, this stuff is so cool. And I don't know. It's like I don't know. I mean, I don't know. All the best action figures. I mean, I was like a big action figure, but model kits and all this stuff. It's a lot of fun. I'm like always thinking now. I'm like, oh, now I have my son, and I'm like, my son's gonna have a lot of fun. Like with all this stuff that you guys suggested. I've like stuff written down. I'm like, oh yeah, this name of this, and saving all these different things. But anyways, this looks really cool. I'm just looking up the Aurora model kits right now.
Yeah, they did the glow in the dark versions that came out like in the early 70s.
Yeah.
And the Godzilla one was my favorite because the spine on it was the glow in the dark material.
Yeah.
So you hold it up to the light, you turn the lights off, and his head and his spine is all lit up, just like when he's ready to shoot his radioactive fire.
Yeah.
And my brother and I used to take the model kits, and there was a broken down lot across from our house, and we'd go out there and we'd cut down the weeds and stuff, and we put our monsters in the sand and stuff and set up like these dioramas. Then we take our cameras and we'd photograph them from above, like we're in helicopters, taking these shots of the monsters.
Well, do you remember Famous Monsters did an issue where they showed people what they did with the Aurora kits, making dioramas and stuff.
Oh,
and I've got that issue, and if you could stare holes in a magazine, I would have done it because I just studied that. And then I built a whole haunted house set in my basement out of like scrap lumber.
Oh,
I put
cool.
wallpaper on the walls, everything else. I had Dr. Jekyll's lab. I had a graveyard next door.
Wow.
So I had a place to display all of them. It was nuts.
Oh, that's cool.
Do you guys know who Bob Burns is? Bob Burns is a movie aficionado, a collector, an actor. He was mostly known like he used to play gorillas in like these movies and stuff. He even had his own gorilla suit.
Yes.
He was in that Saturday morning TV show Ghostbusters with Larry Storch and Forrest Tucker.
Forrest Tucker, yeah.
Yeah, he played the gorilla. Anyway, Bob Burns, I met him at a Monster Bash. He actually owns the King Kong armature.
Wow.
That was built by Willis O'Brien's father.
Wow.
Oh, I'm seeing.
Or
it.
no,
Yeah.
it was, I think it was Willis O'Brien built the armature.
No, I see it right here. Yeah, he's holding it like he's like. I love it. Yeah, he's like.
But Bob Burns, for Halloween, used to get his Hollywood buddies together, and they would pick a movie, and that was going to be the movie of the year for that Halloween, and they'd build this like haunted house set type of thing. So all the kids in the neighborhood would come through.
Whoa.
And experience it, and they would have makeup and the costumes and stuff like they did the Thing from Another World one time.
Wow.
And so you would come through, and it was like you were in those corrugated metal containers, and they had the wood pallets on the floor and shit. And then one of the guys was dressed up like James Arness, and I think you can find them on YouTube because they filmed a lot of this stuff.
Cool.
So I think if you do Bob Burns Halloween, take a look at that. It's like, oh my God, I wish I lived in his neighborhood.
Wow.
I know. Well, you've seen for years what Rick Baker does or used to do prior to COVID is, those just elaborate things, the makeup he'd do, and they'd set up a big thing outside his house, and just everybody from all over the place would come to get candy just to see his makeup.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, I see some stuff that he's doing on his lawn. Like it says in 2002, Bob Burns Halloween, and there's like all these walls set up and mazes and
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. Dang.
If I may, real quickly, Cole King in the chat says, "Is Wraith of God #1 available anywhere?" Yes, it is, right here. You can email me at aaron@aaronlopresti.com or message me on either Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. to get a copy of the second print that I just did. I'm shipping them out right now. So
Outstanding.
Cool.
I wanted to bring up one of the great things that used to be about San Diego Comic-Con, which isn't anymore because I think it just priced everybody out. You used to be able to go there and find guys doing garage kits. You know what those are, right? They're like the low print run. And I've got a couple over here. They were like $80 a piece, but they were so nice. They're vinyls. The Mummy, Karloff the Mummy, and I got a Creature from the Black Lagoon over there that needs to be painted. But you'd find like dinosaur kits that were like really well sculpted, but there'd be like super low print runs. And like I saw somebody had like this great Conan statue, and I was like, and he just like literally cast them in his garage, and had like just a limited number of them. But I think those type of small model entrepreneurs have all been just priced out of San Diego. But that would used to be one of the great things like 10 years ago, was to go and just kind of find those guys and find the crazy a little ton of monster sculpts and model kits that were just very low print run and really, really well done.
Yeah, I have an awesome Road Warrior that I treasure. That's
really
those things. Yeah, off license vinyl kits.
Yeah, they were great.
Well, you sent me that. You sent me that that Frankenstein head. That.
Oh yeah, John Dennett.
Yeah, John Dennett had sculpted.
That guy's great.
Oh yeah, he is really great. He did this Karloff Frankenstein head. It's in a resin, but it needs to be glued to its stand and stuff, and then it needs to be professionally painted.
This is one of his Lovecraft.
Oh wow!
Oh, look at that.
Did it come like that painted?
No, I painted it.
You did, okay.
Yeah, I wanted to look like a bronze.
Yeah, it looks like the Maltese Falcon.
Yeah, exactly.
It's lead. It's lead.
I was going to say that. I was just going to say that.
Did you guys see those Frankenstein busts? These were several years ago now. Was it Cinemaquette or not Cinemaquette? They were life-size Karloff Frankenstein busts, and you could get them either unpainted or they would come painted, which of course was like $1,000. But I think they were like $400, $450. It was Cine something. I can't remember exactly who produced them, but they were really, really well done.
When you say life-size, you mean they're like 6 feet tall?
Well, no, just the bust. Actual head, like your head size. I mean, they were like, that big. The head was.
Here's Dennett's Catwoman, Julie Newmar.
Oh, wow.
I didn't paint it yet, but
right. We're doing show and tell.
What are you going to do with that, Chuck? Are you going to?
I'm not going to paint it lifelike. I'm just going to, do a silver or a bronze on it.
Okay. What do you just use? Spray paint?
Yeah, I just use spray paint.
Oh, okay. That's cool. Well, maybe I'll do that with the monster. Maybe I'll glue it and then I'll spray it. Do you have one of the monster heads?
Huh?
No.
Did you buy one of the monster heads for yourself, Chuck?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
All right. Whoa. So I haven't glued his hands on yet because I got to paint him first. But there's where the body's vinyl and the feet and the hands are resin, which I don't understand, but that's just the way it is. And but the sculpt on it is just fantastic.
Hold on, let me put you on solo here. We can see it bigger.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, let's.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
And this was a garage kit, and it comes with a little base that says Creature from the Black Lagoon on it and some rocks. So you kind of like glue his legs through so it looks like he's swimming,
Yeah.
But I got to paint it before I can put the rest of them together. And then this is the Mummy one by Karloff. Look how good that face is.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
These were like $80, because they're just like these little small print run things. But
Did you have to glue his arms on too?
Yeah.
He has arms in his head?
Yeah. So like I got to go in there and putty these up because, there's, those vinyl kits, you heat them up with a hair dryer to get them more pliable, and then you fit them together, but then they adjust a little bit. And then but yeah, I'd putty that shoulder up to get rid of those gaps and then paint him. I just haven't, I've got an airbrush and everything. I just haven't got around to doing it, but there was some really high quality.
Yeah. They do some awesome stuff. A lot of guys out there doing great stuff.
Yeah. There you go.
Crazy.
That's cool.
Crazy.
I got nothing to show. Maybe I got this. Oh no, you're not. I'm not on camera. It's like Whoa.
That's
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah,
Cool.
these are cool.
Okay. Cool.
Hey, Frankenstein Jr.'s gone.
Coming back. So I just watched, like last week, I just watched 1 Million Years BC. And I got to tell you, man, there was some hot cave woman back then. I had no idea.
I went through puberty during the running time of that movie at a Saturday night.
The only thing I
had hair on my
remember,
chest when I came out.
You see all these you see all these hot cave babes, and then Raquel Welch comes and she's like 10 times better than they were. You're just like, oh man, to be a caveman again. Jeez.
they looked like cavemen.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
chicks though.
The
it was
chicks looked like,
wow.
smoking hot,
Yeah, it was incredible. And they said afterwards, the movie, I watched it on Turner Classic, and they said afterwards that Raquel Welch didn't want to do the movie, and whoever's in charge of the studio, I can't remember, made her do it and said, "You're going to do this movie, and it's going to make you a star." And he was right; it did.
Yeah.
She became a superstar after that movie.
That
wow.
poster is just iconic.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh,
yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the Farrah Fawcett poster of its era.
Oh yeah.
yes.
Absolutely.
We talked about Monster Times. That's the one thing I remember in like the little merch section when you'd go back, there'd always be, like they would sell back issues of the Monster Times, but then there'll also be books that you could buy in posters, and some really awesome books, which I've been collecting over the years to get, from those old magazines. But then those posters, the one I always remember, of course, was her. And the other one was The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. That poster
That's a
where
great
he's
poster.
walking through the city, when he's looking, the Rhedosaurus is looking up. My all-time favorite Harryhausen movie.
So did you do like Billy and just said, you know what, I'm going to cut this coupon and send in $1 and see if anything comes back? Oh man.
Oh, Lieutenant Hughes says Joe is $240 away from 83K.
All right.
Okay.
Oh, you guys, let's get him there.
Get it. Go,
Drag
Joe,
him over the
go.
finish line.
Go, Joe, go.
Manders says, will there be a second chance to get part 1, Graham?
Yes. Probably Monday. It'll go up on the Compass Comics website, because I'm waiting till all the backers are fulfilled for the singular copies. The backers of the CGC copies are going to take longer. There's a lot more involved. But once everybody has their reading copy, then it will go up on the Compass Comics website, probably Monday. So if you were debating on getting number 2 and you didn't get number 1, don't worry about it. You can get number 1 next week.
Graham
And
will
that
take
ships
care of you.
immediately. What's that, Chuck?
Graham will take care of you.
Yeah. Well, Julie will take care of you.
Julie will take care of you. Yeah, Graham.
Graham's too busy.
Yeah.
To worry about you guys.
I'm much too important.
Yes. He's too busy basking in his own limelight.
Unlike me, I do the work and I ship it out. So, not very efficient over here.
All right, the boss just sent me a note here. Chuck just made me laugh. LOL. Not as early as Monday, but Wednesday. Okay.
Yeah, I don't do anything. I just make stuff up. You guys do all the heavy
Yeah,
lifting.
Graham, check with the boss first before you start, giving out information that's incorrect. Jeez, man.
I'm
They
telling
want
you.
to see you down in human resources.
Exactly.
Yeah. Everybody's against me. Dr. Mass says Julie needs a raise.
Oh,
Wait, so Aaron, I was going to ask. So I asked, Chuck and Graham earlier about their the wives, as employees, and helping you out. Like, I mean, how does it work for you? Does she help out or?
well, Shelly helps out with the shipping.
Okay.
There's not really a whole lot beyond that, other than PR stuff she does on social media. But yeah, we were down there this morning and yesterday as well. She does the labels. I'm packaging up the books, and although I got stuck hauling them to the post office, I see I get the short end of the deal on that one. But My daughter's coming home from college, and I will be putting her to work. And she always likes to tell me how strong she is. And I'm like, okay, then pick up these bags of books and let's go. So,
Yeah.
Wait, you have a son too, right? Where is he?
well, he's got a job, so I can't abuse him. He's married and has a job and doesn't live in town. So
Oh,
my
all right.
daughter, like coming back from college and just sitting around watching TV, it's like, come on, muscles, let's go.
You're a dancer. You got muscles.
Yeah, that's right. Well,
Yeah.
she always tells me that she does. So I'm like, okay, load that truck up, chick.
It's on down to the post office.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm trying to teach my wife how to flat like all the pages.
Flat
So
color.
so I color it. So she's going to start flatting it. So we're working on that, and then
Yeah,
I'm trying
Shelley
to
used
get
to
her.
do that.
Huh?
My wife used to do that. She used to flat
Oh, yeah?
for me, but I mean, I'm not, I just color occasional things like my own covers or things like that. But I would have Shelley, but she's a math teacher. And so she's so meticulous. It took her forever. And then I finally gave the job to my daughter, who's an art student and a dancer. And she just burns through those things, puts on some Beatles music. And then,
Yeah.
so she's my new flatter when I can, when I have something that needs to be,
Yeah.
so that's good.
That saves a lot of time.
It does.
Yeah, that'll save so much time for me, without having to just flat it. So I'm trying to get her to do it, and so we're working on that right now. And then trying to get her to do my social media, because it's like just a little bit, just like every post something a little bit every day, something, and so we're working on that too. But she's now seeing it's been one of those things where we're trying to figure out how invested she wants to get into this, because she has no interest in comics and no interest in any of this stuff.
But does she have interest in money?
Exactly. So that's the whole thing. So money is called shoe coupon. So I say, you want more shoe coupons? No. Anyways, no. But anyways, no. But so we're trying to work that whole thing out. So yeah. So we're working on it now. So she's more and more interested in it now. In the last so we've been working out this whole thing with the business. So yeah. Anyways.
Well, every time I tell my wife to go post something on social media, she ends up getting in a fight with somebody. So it's
she'll stay out of it. She just post
like,
it.
why is my wife trending again? What did she say now?
Lopez won the lotto with Shelley.
Thank you, Santiago. I'll tell her you said that. She'll be very touched.
Yeah, Julie has been just a godsend for me since she came to work with the company because it's right in her wheelhouse, organization and stuff. Mm-hmm. And, she's figured out ways to speed things up and do things more efficiently. And it's just great working together for our future.
Since she came to work for the company, and since she came to the basement.
No, we have another building.
I mean, you make it sound like the day she arrived at Nolan Towers, the Nolan Center.
Yeah,
I'm getting naming rights on the next football stadium.
Go to the 7th floor, Julie. There's some forms to be filled out. Here's your lunch voucher.
It's like my wife is like so it's like I did a signing for the book Seasons, and went to a comic book shop. They they wanted to put me in there, so they gave me like a table, and then I just was like I knew the day, I knew that I was supposed to be there, and this is what I was supposed to bring. And then when I got there, it's like my wife's like, "Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do this?" So she had it all figured out. I was like, "Oh my god, yeah, right, exactly. I should have done all this. Why didn't you tell me?"
Exactly. Where was this before I left?
Exactly. So I'm always trying to so now she's now managing me. It's been like this the last couple of months, and so just now getting back to organizing and she's doing my schedule, tell me what I need to work on and all that kind of stuff. It's been working out well. So everything's been very good. Everything's been running on time, putting the episodes out, and it's been good. So And so now she's more and more convinced now. It's like that, she needs to take more and more part in this to get this organized and stuff.
Back in the 90s, when Tom Lyle and I were touring to promote Robin, Tom's wife, Sue, and my wife, they dropped us off at a store appearance, and then they went out, had lunch and went shopping, and they plotted together. And when they came back, they came into the store and pretended to be our groupies. And just embarrassed the living hell out of the two of us. But it was great. It was great. They were just so excited to meet their comic book idols.
That's funny.
Yeah, I'm trying to eventually I'm trying to get my wife to cosplay as Suprema. She's Latina, and we do reference, I do all the stuff, it's like she helps me with it, and so it's like, it makes sense, right?
Yeah, certainly.
Right.
Well, here's the kind of help I get from Shelley. I was at the New York show several years ago, actually during our CrossGen days, and I met Terry Dodson there, and we were doing that show that was right across from Penn Station there, Carbonneau's show.
Yeah.
Like in the second, up in the attic of
up in the
Pennsylvania Hotel or whatever.
Yeah.
And so we're sitting there, and Shelley and Rachel Dodson take off, right? They come back around 2:00, and they had seen a Broadway show, and they came back to get more money from us so they could go see another one. So they're like, there you go. Here's today's proceeds. And off they went. So I don't know.
Geez, I still, once in a while, my wife has no interest in comics, but I'll run stories by her sometimes.
Yeah.
And I got a chance to do a haunted tank story that was going to be drawn by Russ Heath.
Oh.
And I was like so pumped and so amped. I wanted to make sure the story was good. So I go in and I tell Elma the whole story, this haunted tank story. And she says, "Oh, it's good. It's good. It's good. But that haunted tank idea is stupid. You got to get rid of that."
You just reminded me of the recommendation you made to me, Chuck, about for Archie Goodwin, and he did. They were all war stories.
Yeah.
And there was one that he wrote that just still in my mind all the time was the one that was in the trenches.
Oh yeah.
Man, that's the one where he goes off, and then because he didn't want to be in the trenches anymore, he hated it, and then he goes out and something happens and it just terrifies him. He gets in gunfire, people die, and he goes back to the trenches, and he's loved the trenches now. It's like, whoa.
Is that
really embracing the mud, saying, "I love the trench."
You're right, exactly. They're all just watching him, like looking at him, like, and he's just like hugging it, and I was like, that was amazing. I was like,
what was that in Blazing Combat?
Blazing Combat.
Yeah, Blazing Combat. There you go. Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
Archie. God, my God, that was a genius.
Yeah.
Now, Anthony, you wanted to talk about the other Archie story. The Hulk.
Yeah, that's right. You guys kept talking about that Hulk, and that one where he gets really tiny, and it was
And
really
still
good.
kicks Hydra's ass.
You're right. And I just remember that I got so surprised by that ending of that first issue. I mean, I don't think I'm spoiling anything, but, it's like, and then how he just disappears or something like that, right? And I was like, huh? And then, it was that where he got so tiny that he just went through time or something like that. And then it just went to a totally different direction, the whole story.
Yeah.
That was so good. I was totally I just was blown away. I did not expect that, but that was.
Isn't it the one on the cover? He's fighting the rats.
Yeah.
All the rats are coming
He's
out.
got like a pencil or something. He's fighting these rats.
Is that where the storyline where he met Jarella or whatever her name is?
Oh yeah, that's where it goes off. But at first it's like they figure if they shrink the Hulk, they'll be able to contain the Hulk. So Hydra gets him into this thing, and they shrink him down. They realize he's still the Hulk.
Right.
He's just smaller, but he can still get just as angry.
But it was just like that good storyline. It was such a good story. Still, it was like that first issue. It was just like that one that started that whole thing, and then how it just turned. It just turned suddenly. It was like out of nowhere, and I did not expect that to happen. And anyways, but yeah. So even reading that first one, that issue, that was really, really good. And then it just got really, really good. It kept getting kept changing up. So I was like, Archie Goodwin was like, that was awesome. So,
and the amazing thing is they, Stan would just say to him, we need a Hulk script. Okay. And then he would bring that mind to it.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it is like, it's like with Archie Goodwin, when I was noticing in the stories, like, it's all the history, all the stuff that's mentioned, like the stuff that he likes to talk about. Like there's a lot of history. It's like you go back to the Spartans, or you go back to, it's just, I don't know. It's like there's a lot of depth to it. Like he just takes you to all these different places, and so it was like that with the guy you did with what was it, the Wolverine, Larry Hama. He would do that too. Yeah. And that's why I was saying, like, David Gemmell, he does that too. It just, there's so much depth to that. So I was like, that made it much more like, because I always wanted to get into storytelling and writing, but I knew I'm not ready. I just was like, so I kind of just draw, but I'm always kind of keeping the storytelling aspect of of how I tell the pictures, with the story and stuff like that. I'm just trying to still work that out. I still want to write. And when you told me, like, in the videos and everything, like you told everyone, you were in the video, so you're talking about that the writer artist is like pure comics, and I was like, so I'm like, oh, that's awesome. It's like, I want to get to that. I was like, I want to get to that point. And I'm like, no. So now after reading like Archie and, and Larry Hama and like David Gemmell, and then reading your stuff and then reading Graham's, it's just like going through all this stuff, and it's like, cool. So it's like, now I could do so much more. I'm like, I could see where it actually sounds like an entertaining story rather than just like showing how much history I know. Like, Moore, like Alan Moore will kind of like, so look what I know, Don't I know weird things? I know a lot of weird things, don't I? Look how I can do this.
Well, Alan Moore's party trick is making his readers feel smarter than they are.
Yeah.
Because he throws out like a million references, and if the readers get like 3 of them, they go, well, I'm special. I understood what he's talking about.
Did you guys read?
You said party trick, but the guy's a magician.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. Right.
That's what he bills himself.
I'm sorry,
as.
Isn't he a wizard?
He might have descended now to wizard, but I had just recently watched Searching for Steve Ditko, and they interview him, and he says, my name is Alan Moore. I'm a writer and a magician. You made a good story disappear with the end of Killing Joke. Well done.
I didn't
see that coming.
I was gonna say, like, when I didn't have any of this, like I didn't have somebody there sort of like helping direct me in comics. Like I didn't know anybody else in comics. Growing up as a kid, I just kind of like see it, I liked it, whatever. But then as I started actually getting more and more into the story, you look up, what do? You look up top 10 Marvel comics or whatever, right? And it's Moore, it's Ennis, it's Brian K. Vaughan. It's like, so you go through them.
Usual suspects.
You're right. And I went through all of them, and I remember reading, and I didn't understand Batman. I don't know. I was like, I remember like reading the Frank Miller, the Dark Knight one. I wasn't into it. I read it once, and I was like, that was it. It was just, I don't know. And then I read The Killing Joke. Everyone's talking about The Killing Joke. That ending was so, I didn't at the time, I did not like it at all. It was so, was this a real story? I don't know. But then they used it, right? And like, it's canon. It's like they used it as canon, even though I was like at the end there, I was like, is this a one-off story? But I guess, yeah, then later on I found out that they put it towards canon, like they actually used it.
Yeah. It wasn't supposed to be, and Dark Knight was not supposed to be either.
But when you run out of ideas, Graham, you got to take what you got. I said, when you run out of ideas, you got to take what you got in the library, right? And so
that, and also the Son of the Demon, that was not supposed to be canon either.
Yeah.
Well, that was Jerry Bingham, Mike Barr.
Yeah,
Mike Barr, yeah.
Wasn't that like the first hardcover comic book graphic novel that came out? That was really cool. I
Yeah.
It was
remember
a
that.
big deal when it came out.
Yeah, it was a huge deal.
Yeah, but they went off in different directions with that thing, and because they could, because they said it wasn't canon, so that Bruce Wayne could, have a baby with Talia, and then, well, we know how that turned out.
Yeah, I mean, when they came to me and about what they wanted to when I killed Oliver Queen, initially we weren't going to kill him. We were going to have him lose his arm. And they said, make sure it's the opposite arm from the one he's missing in Dark Knight Returns. Because they wanted to basically make it official. Dark Knight Returns is not canon.
Oh.
And Levitt said, just kill him.
Huh.
This is after I spent 2 weeks figuring out a trap where he'd lose his arm and Superman couldn't save him. So
why did Levitz decide to? Why were they getting rid of him?
I never got the reasoning behind it. They never told me what the reasoning behind it.
Huh.
They never told me either why Superman had to be in the story. So
Huh.
He's in a trap, he can't get out, and Superman arrives but can't save him. I said, what am I in the Weisinger era? I mean, how does that work? And they, well, you figure it out. I said, I am in the Weisinger era.
Yeah, you wrote about a gangster gorilla. Nothing screams Weisinger more than gorillas.
You said that in My Sister Suprema. No?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, you did.
Yeah,
Am
I
I in the
referenced
Weisinger
Weisinger.
era?
No, that's funny because when I did the Metamorpho miniseries, I'd finished the script, and after I'd already rewritten what I originally wanted to do to meet what they wanted to do, and so I wrote it, and then I remember them saying, "Oh, you got to work Kanjuro into this story," and I went, "How am I supposed to do that?" They said, "Well, I don't know. You're the writer." So I went back and restructured it so that Kanjuro, because and they supposedly they were going to use it as this big spinoff, and they never did. So I was like, okay, so you crippled my story for no reason at all.
Is he the guy with like the bug eyes, like the fly type eyes?
Yeah. He's that alien guy with it, and trying to make him look
or
cool.
something.
It was just like,
I had to draw him in Hawkworld. He was a player in Hawkworld way back when Ostrander was writing it.
They used to do all kinds of stuff like that. I mean, remember when they put a character called Obsidian had to be in all the comics? Because they had big plans for Obsidian, and then you never saw them again.
Yeah.
Oh.
They always had like these ideas that were like never saw fruition. You know what I mean? They never became what somehow they were supposed to become. When I was working on Amethyst, they had a month where they said, okay, we're doing all these gatefold covers where villains are, maybe it was Villains Reborn or something, I can't remember, but they're doing these gatefold covers where you wouldn't reveal the villain until you pulled the cover open and the villain was over here, right? So you had your regular cover image here, and so we did these elaborate things, and mine was Eclipso, and then I was like, you did it, and you're like, why did we do this again? I mean, it's just like this elaborate thing for nothing, Yeah. I'm trying to figure out how to make a cover work like this when it's really a gatefold cover, which you can't see. So how do I make this cover work? Because that's what everybody's going to be buying the book from. But really, the reveal after you buy it is this, and you're like, well,
I never got that character Eclipso. Even though the first Eclipso story I ever read was by Alex Toth. I was like, what is this? I mean, I don't get this. It's like a Jekyll and Hyde dude or something, or with the moon on it.
Moon comes out.
Yeah,
I had a story. I was pitching this for years, and I could never get it off the ground. It was called, it was a Justice League story from the 60s, right? And it took all the ridiculous, like Brother Power the Geek, Dolphin, Angel and the Ape, all these characters, right? And it was like, Uncle Sam comes down from the spirit world, right? He's hanging out with the Spectre and all those guys, and he sees all this unrest in the 60s, and he wants to create a super team, a new Justice League that the people can relate to, right? Because all these teenagers they're anti-establishment, they hate Superman and all these icons, right? So he creates this basically hippie team. Plastic Man's in it, the Creeper, and the villain was Eclipso. And the whole thing was Eclipso was going to set off a bunch of nuclear bombs to create a nuclear winter, so it would be like nighttime all the time, so he could exist 100% of the time. And
That's cool.
Yeah, I kind of liked it, but maybe it's because I was using a bunch of like third-rate characters as the heroes. But
was this your concept, Aaron?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, you ran into editorial bias. I can almost assure you. I mean,
yeah, sure.
Like, I pitched a thing where Robin quits. Tim Drake quits being Robin, and goes to work for Blue Beetle, because Blue Beetle at the time was terminal, dying. And he needs a replacement. And I said, let's do a 6-issue Blue Beetle. Robin's absent from Batman for 6 months. That way we get, a cool miniseries, and then the return of Robin, blah, 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 blah. And everybody said, no, it'll never fly because Mike Carlin hates Blue Beetle. I'm like, okay.
Well, there you go.
So, well, go pitch it to him. So I go and pitch it to him, but I never mentioned Blue Beetle. I said, he just starts working for another superhero, blah, blah. And Mike loves it. And he says, so who's the hero? I said, Blue Beetle. He goes, I hate Blue Beetle. And it never went any further.
I don't want to, we're going to turn into a bunch of stories here, but I had a lunch meeting.
It's all about.
Yeah. I had a lunch meeting with Bob Harris, and they hired this guy. I can't remember who it was. This would have been after both you guys, I think. He was like the new editor-in-chief, and he lasted like about 6 months. And but it was basically to free up Bob Harris to be more oversightful and not be as involved day to day and all the superhero stuff. And I pitched this thing where I was like, you do these like a series of one, like a 6-issue miniseries, right? But each one featured a different character, and each one was one of the outsiders. And at the end, they reformed, and Batman came in, and then you would launch Batman and the new outsiders off this miniseries as an ongoing, right? And he loved it. And then he says to me, yeah, he goes, but you can't write it. And I'm like, how do you know I can't write it? And it was just like, because they were coming off, I guess, Finch and his wife had just written Batman or whatever that he was drawing, and they had, I guess, some problems with the scripts or whatever. And so I said, and I just told the guy right to his face, I said, you have a bias against artists writing. I said, that doesn't mean I can't write. I said, if I turn in the script and you think it sucks, that's fair. Okay. But to say that I can't even turn in, I can pitch you this idea. You like the idea. Let's go with the idea. But now we got to find someone else to write it. I'm like, well, screw you, But
I pitched something one time, and they always had these lists that they never let you see of which editor controlled which characters.
Mm-hmm.
I forget what the character was, but I pitched him, and they said, no, that character is reserved for Mark Miller.
Oh, yeah.
And I said,
I've heard that too.
He's at Marvel. And they said, yeah, but he might work for us someday.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, do you remember the Brave and Bold pitch that I had?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was going to be a 12-issue series. It was called The Brave and the Bold. It was Batman hooking up with a different hero every month for 12 months. But the story thread was that a child was born with the anti-life equation. And the whole thing was to get them to Apocalypse, because the child was, the child was in danger, and the Batman had to discover which child this was, who had the anti-life equation. And so I said, you can team them up with whoever you want, whatever popular characters or unpopular characters you want me to use, but I need Superman for the 12th issue, So the whole point was to get them to Apocalypse and have this big showdown with Darkseid and Superman. And and Batman discovering, and saving this kid and everything. It was really, really cool. And they just went, no. So, somebody else was working on a Brave and Bold.
Yeah.
Never came out.
It never got published.
Never got published. No. Nope.
Right. Exactly. Of course.
I always heard that. We're working on something just like that.
Oh, yeah. Just like it.
Never.
Yeah.
I pitched Winter World to Archie at Epic, and he said, yeah, we're working on something like that. And then after Winter World came out, I said, what was it you were working on that was like Winter World? He goes, nothing's like Winter World.
It's like the scene at the end of Raiders where they're like, Who, where's the arc? Who's working on it? Top men. Who? Top men, It's like, Chuck, were you still at DC when they were hunting around trying to relaunch the Creeper? And they were everybody was pitching it, and even Mignola pitched something and they wouldn't go with it. And I pitched something, everybody was pitching something. They finally released the series, and he was like working as a hamburger flipper and it was just the most, you're like, you kidding me?
Yeah.
This is the one you took?
Even before that, we were trying to work the Creeper into Batman continuity again. And if you look at some of our books at the end of our run, we have billboard signs that says Jack Ryder, radio program, whatever it was called, Jack Ryder, because he was like a talk show host type of thing. And we were pitching. I still have the drawings in my flat file over here of then doing a Creeper story that would bring him into the Bat universe.
That's a great place for him, too.
There was always this backroom crap going on at DC, and you never knew why they made the decisions they made. I mean, I remember every single Bat Summit, one of the writers would go, "Oh, I want to use the Wraith." Remember the Wraith from one of the Batman annuals? And it was like, no, nobody can use the Wraith. Why not? Well, but you just can't. It's like, what?
See, you would have found this all out, Chuck, if you just took that job after getting it.
Yeah. I would
well, Aaron found a way to use the Wraith.
That's right. Do your own versions.
Yeah. Well played, Aaron. Well played.
Yeah. I was in it for the long game.
Outlast them. That's my motto. Outlast every asshole that I ever had to encounter in comics. I just want to outlast them.
Well, that was my line to every editor who ever screwed me over. I was just like, dude, I'm going to be around a lot longer than you ever will be. And every time it's turned to be true. There has not been a case where that has not been the truth.
The people that blackballed us, gone.
Yep.
Here we are.
But the black ball remains.
Yeah, I know. We're still blacklisted, but it's from different
not really
people.
A black ball anymore. It's more like you don't even want to go there.
It's a badge of honor now.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's like if they called to say, oh yeah, we've got this, gender fluid character. We want you to, introduce. Be like, get out of here. What's his name? What's his name? Batman.
Go back to DC or Marvel. It's like you take the pay cut.
We get this bisexual, gender fluid, non-conformist, blah, blah, blah. Yeah,
and he's a crime fighter. What's his name? Batman.
See, I was doing early on. It was about 2013, 2014. This is, I think I was doing Uber. I was driving for Uber, and I picked up, I think it was a DC, someone who worked for DC, and they were an editor that worked for DC. And I said, "Oh, I'm a comic artist." I was like trying to do that. And then I didn't have any cards. I didn't have anything. I didn't want to really give the information, anything. Because I even probably back in 2013, maybe it wasn't as bad. I don't know. DC at the time, but I didn't want to work for Marvel or DC. I didn't want to do anything. I wanted to do something on my own. And so even at that time, I avoided it. But who knows? I don't know. Maybe it wouldn't have been as bad.
No, it would have been bad. It would have been I was in DC during the Dio era, and that guy was, I think his whole intention was to drive freelancers out of their minds.
Wow. Well, there you go. Yeah, just stayed away from it. I had no intention. I wanted to get into movies. I wanted to do that kind of stuff, but I didn't want to do some job with Hollywood. I didn't want to go into that. So I just studied. I just did like a regular job. Like I worked at Best Buy, or I did Uber, I did something, and that's it. So I would go on doing my own thing. So it's always been like that.
That's why I did. I drove an ice cream truck. I was a security guard. I was a janitor, working on my craft.
Yeah. Screwing lids on horseradish. I did that.
Wow.
What'd you do?
Screw lids on horseradish.
Oh.
Cans of horseradish.
Okay.
Wow.
During a swing shift too, so it wasn't even like good hours, it was like a horrible job and bad hours. It's like the greatest combination.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did cook work, dishwashing, flipping burgers, construction work, building
Mhm.
decks, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
to make money. Worked in ad agencies. Ooh.
Oh yeah, I did some storyboarding.
Ooh,
The horror.
boy.
When I was
Talk
in
about Divorce Central.
oh,
Oh
geez.
yeah.
Oh my God.
Talk about Alcoholics Central.
Well, that too.
Woo.
Which could
Yeah.
explain the divorce rate.
Yes.
Well, thankfully, when I was working in an art studio, commercial art studio, back when they still had those, they actually had artists doing stuff. And I was the new guy, and I wasn't married, or actually, I don't even think I was dating anybody at the time, which was good because it was always those Friday afternoons, right, where somebody over at Nike or somebody at Wyden and Kennedy, which is the big ad agency here in town, they would be like, "Okay, we need this commercial storyboarded, and we need them by Monday morning." And you're like, "It's Friday at 4. So guess who's working this weekend?"
When
That happened
I
to me
was
all the
working,
time, but I was young.
when I was at an ad agency, I was trying to get more and more comic book work. So I had shown my work to Don Daly over at Marvel, and he says, "Yeah, I like it. Give me a call Friday. I'll see if I have anything." I'm okay, great. So now I'm at work at the ad agency, and there's no cell phones.
Right.
There's one phone on the wall, and it's right near the AD's office. So what am I going to get on this phone, call Don Daly, and talk about maybe getting a job doing stuff for Marvel while the AD is right in there, So I'm like waiting till lunchtime and everything, and I call, and I finally get through. And I said, "Oh yeah, hey Don, you said to call Friday." "Yeah, I don't have anything for you yet." "Well, call me next Wednesday." I'm like, "Okay." So next Wednesday comes around, same thing. I'm like, "Yeah, Don, yeah, just you said to call Wednesday." "Uh-huh. Okay. No, I still don't have anything. Give me a call Friday. I should have something then." So Friday comes along. I get down, the same thing. I'm looking around, waiting until it's clear. I go, "Don, yeah, it's Friday. You said to give you a call. You've got to stop bothering me." That's what he said. He goes, "You got to stop bothering me. I'll call you if I have something." I'm like, "You told me to call you on Friday. It's Friday."
I remember the second time I talked to Larry Hama, he bought a bunch of my stories and he wanted more. And I said, "Well, should I come up and have lunch with you?" And he goes, "Why the fuck would I want to have lunch with you?" I said, "I thought that's what you guys did."
Oh man.
And then when he did invite me up for lunch, I'm sitting on the sofa waiting for him to come in his office. He walks in, he looks at me, and goes, "Who are you?" I said, "Chuck Dixon. We're having lunch today." "Oh, is that today?" and he sits down at his desk. He has a briefcase. He opens his briefcase. There's two things in his briefcase: a VHS tape of the Three Stooges and a Colt 45 automatic. And he looks over at me to see what I'm going to say. And I said, "Is that a government model?" And then he couldn't do enough for me after that.
Oh, see, there you go. Good for you.
Well, he's probably used to dealing with, little pansy New Yorkers,
Well, that's how I got my work with him. I said, "You need me." And he goes, "Why do I need you? I don't know who you are." And I said, "Well, most comic writers don't know which end of a gun the bullets come out of." And he goes, "Well, you're right about that."
It's
funny.
so true.
Oh
I always love when they draw the bullet flying and it still has the casing on it.
Yeah. Or they draw a line from the gun to where it's going, like they're drawing in their notebook in 6th grade.
Yeah.
It's so funny. It's just like, going to these places, talk to these people, like trying to find work in comics, doing this, and like, man, like early on, I was really like heavily into like politics, and I was always listening to talk radio, and this whole like conservative victimization kind of mentality kind of got stuck in my head. Like I felt like I couldn't go anywhere, but I had no interest in it. I just had no interest in doing someone else's work. Like in a way, it was like that. So I was always working on my own thing, like always, all the time, like that kind of thing. But it's funny how like I don't know. It never got into my head about going. I just didn't know. I didn't know where to go find work. They said, turn in pages, like mail us stuff and we'll, or send us an email, like send us your portfolio. Like, you go to all the different places like Dark Horse or DC or Marvel, and I don't know. I didn't know where else to go. So I just kind of always, I guess, I don't know. I came around the time where everybody was just making their own thing and not even worrying about going to any of the big ones at all. And this is
what you missed out on, Anthony, was the days pre 9/11 where you could actually go up to the offices. And if you've been up there a couple times and had the key is making a relationship with the secretary at the desk.
Yes.
Because if she knows you, she'll let you in, expecting an editor will be there to greet you. But now, I mean, after 9/11, you had to go down. You were met at the bottom of the building.
Right.
Somebody from the offices had to come down and bring you up from security and all that. But back in those days, you could go up there, you could wait in the lobby. And I remember Ruthie over at DC. I'd show up. She goes, "Oh, hi, Graham. Go on back." And then you're back in the mystery land. You could pop in. Huh?
The hunting grounds.
The hunting ground. Yeah. You could just pop in if there was an editor's door open. You could say, "Oh, hey, Denny, Graham Nolan, I was just wondering if you had a minute so I could show you my portfolio." And 9 times out of 10, they'll say, "Yeah, sure, come on in." And 5 out of 10 times, if they liked what they saw, they'll have had a script that came in that they needed somebody to work on, and you'd walk out of there with a script.
Mm-hmm.
I was just going to say that. I mean, I know, I got a lot of jobs because I showed up 5 minutes after they were saying, "Who are we going to get to do this?"
Right.
And then I knocked on the door.
Remember when you and I went up to Marvel and met with Macchio, and I walked out of there with like 4 scripts.
Yep. And Macchio wouldn't look at me.
Yeah, I remember that.
Never looked. It was like I wasn't there. It's like he was. I was like Red China in the 60s. I didn't exist. I was not to be acknowledged.
I have no good stories about Ralph Macchio, so I guess as my mom said, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. So I'll keep my mouth shut.
Well, you should do what Betty Davis did when she found out that Joan Crawford died. She said, "My mother said to never say anything bad about somebody who's died. Joan Crawford's dead. Good."
But I followed your formula, Graham. I got in good with the receptionist at Marvel, and so I would go every time I went back. She just let me in. I had no appointments or anything, and I would stay in there. Somebody's door was open. I'd go knock. I'd show my portfolio. I'd try and get work. And it was great. It was great fun. The boldness that I had that now I was like, I can't believe I did that. But it's like, you're like, how else are you going to get work, right?
Yeah. And that was the way the business ran, and everybody knew it and everybody went through it. All those editors back there, all those writers and artists had all gone through that at some stage, so it was common practice in our business. And that's what made it so wonderfully homey, I guess, whereas like if you tried to do that at an ad agency, forget it. It's like a law firm, it's like, well, you can't get past the front desk. You don't have an appointment. Get the hell out of here,
Yeah. If you went to a book publisher, I mean, you're not getting out of the lobby.
Yeah. But there was that kind of informality in comics, which was really, really cool.
Yeah. And I was going to say like that. I was really, really, all I could think about, I couldn't work. Like when I was at the job, all I was listening to was, business stuff or comic stuff, like just how to do this or how to do that. If I was I remember I was working at Best Buy, I was a cashier, and I would just sit there and have a book on the side of the register. And I just sit there and just look at comics and just like look at things and read things and just try to get myself, like I was never focused on whatever I was doing. So I really, really wanted it to work, and I didn't know where else to go. I was like literally just trying to figure out. I was like YouTube, Google, something, and like, am I going to find? I stumbled upon people. I remember I stumbled upon I don't know if the name like Jason Brubaker rings a bell or anything, but he did like Sithra and Remind, and he was a big he did a huge campaign like with Kickstarter with his whole thing with Remind, but he was the guy like that does that. He'll tell you, like he did a really good success with like building up an audience slowly. And, you know, he had a day job at DreamWorks, but on the extra, you know, his spare time, he would work on this comic book, and he would just put a page every week, and he would just do it for years. He just did this, and he just built like a huge following, and he's just, anyways. So I got in contact with him, and I'm friends with him now, and kind of picked his brain or tried to do whatever I could, and, you know, and then from there on, it went on again, and just trying to figure out all these different things. If I found out about the Q-Bird School, I probably would have went to, it was in New York, right? I probably would have went there.
New Jersey.
New Jersey. Okay,
Yeah.
so I probably would have went there. I probably would have taken my wife. We would have went to New Jersey, and I would have gone to the school. I was so adamant, just try to find something. And I worked in, I was in North Hollywood, you know, in LA, and I was like, and you'd run into somebody somewhere. Somebody would be in something, some movie, something, someone looking for art, and so I would always find jobs and find stuff there. I worked as a banker, and people would come in and actors and all this stuff, and they want treatment. They want an artist. Hey, well, let's work on something. Let's collab, you know. And so I'd work on something with that, you know, do something with there, and it didn't go anywhere. But I got to draw, and I got to.
They asked bank tellers this thing.
Yeah. I was a personal banker. You come to my desk and we just chat. I just talk to you.
Okay.
I hated that job. Banking for an artist, like, just
Tell me about it. When I was at the Q-Bird School, I worked at a bank.
Oh my God.
I lasted just like 2 months, you know.
I was a year and a half. I was like about a year and a half. And I met my wife there too. So it wasn't all bad, you know.
Yeah,
She was a teller. She was a teller there.
Yeah.
I worked at a bank too. I was a janitor.
You were just
Federal Reserve Bank in Philadelphia.
Yeah. I had there was this girl that worked at the bank. She was young like me, real pretty. And she had a boyfriend, and I knew that, you know, but we just had a good rapport and everything. I thought it was better than it was. We were crossing each other, like one of us was going through the drive-through, the other one was going through the walk-up, and I had a money bag, and she was in my way. I said, "Hey, get out of the way!" And I hit her in the rear end with the money bag, and then went over to what I had to do. And, you know, nobody said nothing. Everything business was as usual. Next morning, I get in there, and the bank manager calls me into his office and goes, "Yeah, we had a complaint." I'm thinking, "Oh shit, did I short somebody a 20?" You know, and I said, "Oh, what did I do?" And he goes, "I don't even remember her name. Let's say it's Diane. You know, did you swat Diane on the rear end yesterday?" I said, "Yeah, with a money bag. She was in my way. I hit her." He goes, "No, we can't do that."
Goodbye, Mr.
And now I'm embarrassed as hell because I didn't mean anything by it. She didn't come to me, and we were friends. Like, she could have come in the break room or said, or even just said something right then and there. "Hey, you know, boundaries, dude, whatever." You know, as a friend, you could have come to me, but she kept silent and then went to the bank manager. And now I got to go back out on the floor with her now that I know this. And in my Irish, you know, I'm like, yeah,
female privilege here.
yeah. So that wasn't good. So yeah, banking was not my thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's like, yeah, I couldn't. It's because my mind was somewhere else all the time. All I wanted to do was go home and draw, and I wasn't. And again, I thought I was really good at the time, but I was always looking at other things, and I was like, I am not ready. I even got in contact with, so one of the actors that I met there in North Hollywood, it was in North Hollywood, it was at Wells Fargo. I met an actor there, and he met a guy who used to be an editor at DC or something. I don't know. So now this guy now does his own thing where he teaches people how to do comics or something. And I forget his name. I was like, oh man, what's that guy's name? I want to tell you guys if you guys know who he was. Anyways, And so we pay him like for an hour just to talk, just to see what we could do, see if I have chops for what I'm doing. And he liked my art. He just said it was just too detailed. So I did way too detailed art. Like it was, but I look back on it. I mean, it was just awful compared to what I do today. But I'm just like, but I was trying to find a way to get better at doing comics. I was just always trying to find a way to get better at it. And so that's why, like, anyways, eventually I was just always doing something on my own. I was like trying to figure it out on my own. It was slowly but surely. But I got into like I did two different comics, and they were bad. But then when I got that out of my system, when I got the seasons, I did that. That was my first paid gig, and it actually was. I learned a lot from my other two, and then I learned as I went along with seasons. So you see the art kind of change as it goes from issue 1 to issue 4, and then issue like 5 through like the rest of it, and the next arc or something is like some of the best stuff I've ever done. But I wanted to stray away from that because it was like a super realistic kind of like manga dynamics to it. It wasn't manga faces. It was all like a Western, but it was more of like a manga kind of feel to it. But I wanted to be more like My Sister Suprema. That's where I'm going. That's what I want to do with my art.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
Well, let's do a timpani here and see where we're at. So we got 1532 backers, 83,210. Have the folks been listening? Let's see.
Survey says
83,610. All right.
Nice.
Nice.
Excellent.
Someone's listening.
They
Yeah.
are.
There are people out there in the void.
We need more Dangerfield jokes.
Did you, Graham? Did you want to tackle this? What happened to get you guys out of favor of the big two question?
Sure. Yeah. That's why I put it up there. Somebody had asked, what? Let's see. Here it is. Let's put that up. Chris Thacker says, "What happened to get you guys out of favor at the big two?" Who would like to start with that?
Well, as the Jesus of Comicsgate, I'll start. Yeah, I mean, back in the day, you could work with bleeding heart liberals, and if you were a Goldwater conservative like me, it was cool. You'd argue at lunch and then go back to work, and they're forget all about it because comics. It was about comics. It wasn't about anything else. And then around 2000, that all changed, and people brought in and they saw everything through a political lens. And so even though my work wasn't political, I was an outspoken conservative at lunch. So I was out of there. They just didn't want to work with me anymore. DC couldn't fire me because I had 4 books that they called their bellwether books because they all sold about the same amount and they all sold consistently well every month. So they couldn't get rid of it, but they tried. I mean, they tried everything to make me miserable there. And eventually I went to CrossGen. So I'm a different kind of miserable.
Totally different kind of miserable, right?
And what did you do to screw up your career?
Well, I think AT&T screwed up my career initially because they went and bought DC and then they fired everybody that I knew at DC, right? So, and I know you guys don't like Dan DiDio, but he always took care of me at DC. And when he got canned, I was kind of like, because I would always go over everybody's head. If an editor couldn't find me to work, I'd call up Dan and go, Dan, I need something. And he would find something for me. And, but when he got let go, I was like, wow, there's, the guy that took care of me is gone. What's going to happen kind of thing. And, but then I got approached by some new editors that had come in and were fans of my Wonder Woman stuff or whatever. And I got to do some Justice League stuff. And I thought, okay, this is going pretty good. And then September of that year rolls around and AT&T dropped the bloody hatchet and fired just about every editor in there. Right. And so all these assistant editors got elevated. And I was like, everybody that I had a relationship with that I could call and say, hey, man, you got something? They would find something. We're gone. Right. So I sat there and I thought, am I going to seriously go in there and grovel to these 20 somethings? And I had not maintained a good relationship with Marvel. I wasn't on bad terms necessarily with them, but I just had not been in contact with them because I was just exclusively working at DC for like 12 years. So I didn't really have anybody over there that I could call up and, And they were like,
what year was this, Aaron? When this all kind of came down?
It was 2000. Was it 18? What was the COVID year where they shut everything down?
2020.
2020. Okay, it was 2019.
Okay.
And so I didn't have any connections anywhere. So I was faced with the prospect of, here's a guy in my mid 50s, right, saying, I'm going to have to go basically show my portfolio, grovel, and try and get work through. And I was like, what am I doing? It was like this big realization I had, right? I was like, why am I doing this? And about this time, Ethan and a few of the other guys were making huge bucks doing crowdfunding. And I'm like, maybe I should try that, right? And so I started working on Wraith of God and started appearing on, I think we even started doing the professionals back at that point. And, I'd learned that you need to get a YouTube presence and all this kind of stuff. And so I said, okay, I'll start working on getting an audience so that when I launch this thing, there'll be people actually aware of me and aware that I'm doing this. And I was on Ethan's show and different things all over the place. No one said anything, right? And then when I launched Wraith of God on Ethan's channel, all hell broke loose for the next, 72 hours. I was getting attacked all over social media, especially Twitter. I became instantly overnight, became a Nazi. I was getting people showing up in my chat, attacking me in the chat, trying to, sabotage my shows. And luckily I had some good comebacks, like I realized you just got off your job at Taco Bell and your mom's pissed off that you're still up this late, but try and get a real life kind of thing. But anyway,
the basement light when you come up.
Yeah, exactly. And not that there's anything wrong with working at Taco Bell. I go there.
Respectable. I'm just kidding. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And so then that's when I started getting the night messages we all joke about, right? Why are you becoming a white supremacist, from other people you'd never talk to in the industry, but now they're your buddies and they're concerned about your well-being, right?
Right.
And
your so-called buddies were on your ass.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so then it became that no one at Marvel or DC, not only were they not going to work with me, but they were telling people, don't associate with him or we won't give you work. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what's going on. It's just absurd, but that's exactly what's going on. And so that's kind of what happened there.
Yeah.
With me. So I got aged out sort of, and then I became a political opponent.
Mm-hmm. So I ended up actually getting out before that stuff started because I left for syndicated strips in 2000. 2000. At that point, editors were changing. The market was starting to crash, and a lot of people I knew up at DC were losing their jobs and stuff. And I said, I gotta figure out something. And less and less work was coming in. So I had the opportunity to go over to King Features and work for them, which I ended up doing for like 13 years. And with an occasional freelance job in between. But when I came back after leaving the comic book business, it was a whole different animal. So many jobs had changed. And the type of people that were in there, as Chuck had said, were these ideologues, these politics first, you're either with us or you're against us type stuff.
Yoga pants wearing.
What's that?
Yoga pants wearing.
Yeah. And so, I hooked up with the Ominous Press because they had asked me if they could do a Monster Island, and they were funding it and paid for it, so that worked out okay. It gave me some work. I ended up doing Expendables Go to Hell with Chuck and Zach. And that one was an eye opener for crowdfunding and that whole thing. And I thought to myself, well, I should just try and launch something of my own, because I had pitched 3 projects to Aftershock, and they bought one. They bought the Girls of Dimension 13, which I did for them. But the Shanu and Alien Alamo they turned down, and I said, well, okay, I got these 2 projects that I can jump on or do one. And I figured, well, I'll do horror first because horror is a good bellwether. There's a lot of people that like that genre. So that's what I did. I started, I still had my company name from when I did Monster Island in 1998. So I still had Compass Comics. And I said, well, we'll dust that off. We'll publish it under that. And then, it went off from there. Each one doing better than the last one,
It's a very bizarre world that we live in right now, and it almost seems surreal at times, the stuff that's going on. And I mean, it's obviously very during the line. Oh, thanks, Eric. I appreciate that, man. I won't blow you up on Sunday. Well, I'm not going to guarantee that, but I do appreciate you saying that. But you see this stuff going on in comics, and you like, I mean, I do this often. I'm like, I'm just so tired of the drama. I keep thinking, maybe I should go do something else. But then you walk outside and you go, this is going on everywhere.
Right.
This isn't just in comics. It's amazing that it's in comics, but it's everywhere. It's what's going on culturally right now. So you can't escape it no matter what you do.
Yeah.
You're going to stand for what you believe in. You're going to get attacked no matter if you're a Walmart greeter, for crying out loud. So, which I may still end up being. So, I mean, I just entered in the perfect age bracket to get hired to do that. So.
Well, the way I looked at it is that the whole cancel culture thing is, if I have a dream, and I'm not going to let anybody else take that dream from me. If I decide to end it, then I do it. But those are on my terms. So, my mindset is you go over, you go under, you go around, or you go through. But your dream is at the other end, whether there's that big rock is in your way, you go through it, over it, under it, around it, or through it. It's as simple as that. You figure out a way if you want to stay in it and stay viable. And thankfully there are other ways, and there's definitely options out there that weren't there. And it just takes it's a lot of work, as we all know, but it sure is worth it.
The dogs bark, the caravan moves on.
That's right.
Never apologize, because apologizing is showing your throat.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Oh, little Nathan Brittles there.
Yeah, they just, I mean, I was asked to apologize to editors for things that I had said online.
Yeah.
And I would call that editor and said, okay, I said it, I meant it, I'm not apologizing for it. So
it's not wrong.
Work, I am what I am. I am as God made me. I'm not apologizing for anything I said because I believe it.
Well, no, wait a minute. They wanted you to apologize for editors for your political commentary, not like you made personal attacks on these people.
No, it was my political, the contents of my mind.
Right. And so they were like, you offended this person.
Right.
So you need to call and apologize to this person that you offended. And you're like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Wow.
All that does is belittle you, and they're not going to hire you anyway.
Right.
Well, I mean, look what they did to this poor bastard up in Toronto. He posts something about whatever.
Oh, the comics broke me hashtag.
Yeah, the baseball player. And if he lives to be 100 years old, he's going to regret what he did, because he said something, they didn't like it, they made him apologize. And Patty Hearst didn't look as much like a hostage as he did when he apologized. And they made him throw out the first ball on Pride Day. And they had a whole bunch of ringers in the audience to boo him the whole time.
Oh, this is something different. Okay.
And then at the end of the game, they sent him down to the minors. And this is a guy that had a $3 million a year contract. This guy's a star on that team.
Wow.
And they ruined him forever. They destroyed him. I mean, that guy's going to have sleepless nights for the next 6 months.
Yeah, but
thinking, why did I apologize?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Garfield Bizarre Adventure, thank you for that $10 super chat. That's a decent cigar. The mainstream comic weirdos chased away the paying customers and blacklist a large portion of their most talented artists and writers, and they wonder why they are broke and not making money. Yeah, it's a drain that spirals. And that as they get in there and this happens, and better artists go away, they hire cheaper talent, which doesn't attract anybody. Sales go down. rates go down, so now you have to hire cheaper talent with worse. It's just there's no way out of it without admitting the mistake and putting money back into it and cleaning house and getting people in there that know what they're doing.
Pride comes before the fall. So
and it's not just people they disagree with politically. I mean, you got a lot of underemployed comic talent out there who, at the peak of their powers, who agree with them politically. But they don't want to pay the money. They're not interested in the quality of the work. So
right. Well, so you get these boring Behance portfolios that now pass as professional Marvel work.
Right. Isn't this the inevitability, though, of corporate takeovers of any small businesses? And DC and Marvel were small businesses, and then they controlled everything in house, and they quality control of what they wanted to produce, and then they sold to these big corporations. It took a couple decades, but we're finally seeing that these corporate people that are in charge, they don't care about comics. They don't give a rip about them because they don't make enough money to, even when they're doing well, they don't make enough money to even be a blip on their radar.
Right.
And so it becomes to, well, how can we cut costs here, and how can we, they don't want to get rid of the IPs, but this whole publishing thing is, we're just wasting money kind of. And that's how they feel about it. So this may be it. They've always make the joke that every decade, all the creative people in comics talk about, well, this is it. We better figure out what we're going to be doing in 6 years because the industry is going to be gone. And it just kept limping along and finding ways to reinvent itself and surviving. But I wonder if this may actually be it.
No, it won't be, because
I'm talking about corporate, like Marvel and DC.
It's good for them.
Yeah.
They're going to become licensing houses. I mean, they really have no choice at this point.
Yeah. At some point, they're going to license out these characters to somebody that cares about them, that has money. Whether it's a Todd McFarlane Productions or it's another company that raises the money for it or something like that. But somebody will start to shepherd these things because there's too much money involved in these things. And as far as comics as an art form, there's always going to be a need for it in some form, whether it's digital or it's hard copy or whatever the next new thing is. It's the telling of stories with words and pictures, which is an essential form of storytelling that is, I guess, basically inculcated into the human spirit and the human race. So that ain't going anywhere.
I agree, but if they don't course correct, whether they license this out, like if let's just say they license everything out to McFarlane, just for example, right? Marvel does, but then they still have their woke corporate people overlooking what he's doing. Unless they course correct what they're doing with these characters, it doesn't matter who licenses them; they're going to fail until they allow someone to go actually and do them right the way they should be done, where that actually appeals to someone. Because right now, the stuff they're doing appeals to nobody.
Well, I guess it depends on what the licensing deal is. What type of control they would have in that. I would suspect that somebody that wanted that licensing deal does not want it on the terms that are driving them into the shitter. That they're gonna want it on terms that are beneficial, that they believe they can turn it back around into a profitable situation.
Yeah, you're talking about somebody who would be a smart business person, so they don't have any business being in comics. So I don't know that. I mean, how often do we see people failing upward? It's remarkable, and it's like so. Is someone going to license comics from Marvel and not realize that what they're doing sucks and that has to completely change? Or are they just going to say, oh, I want to do Spider-Man and sure, whatever. And it'll just be the same crap, different publisher. I don't know. Be interesting to see.
Yeah.
Hopefully, yeah. And it may happen much faster. So we won't have to wait too long to find out.
Yeah.
I was listening to Kelsey Shannon, and he was just saying, if I was like the same way about where it's indie comics all the way, because it's like if I have to hear one more story about Spider-Man or Batman or something, it just keeps going, and it's like it's true. It's like you can get somebody that knows what they're doing with the character to kind of get back on these things, because there's, like you just said, Graham, there's a lot of money involved in this, and there's no way that they're going to let this. I don't know. Like, well, what is it? It's like they're not going to let it fail. They're not going to let it slip from their fingers. They're going to get all these lawyers involved. Like, what is it? Like, what's like the end game here with that? Because
let me just address Geronimo here really quick. I was thinking about getting Joe Frank, but I don't want to start at 2 without getting the first. Will the entire story be available at some point?
Wednesday.
Yeah.
Right.
The first one's going to be available on the Compass Comics website as soon as everybody's fulfilled. I'm told next Wednesday, not this Wednesday. Wait, no. Yeah, that is this.
Yeah,
That's
so
right.
it'll be on the site Monday, and they'll be able to get it Wednesday.
No. It'll be on. It'll come up on the site sometime next week, Wednesday, sometime between Wednesday and Friday. The book will appear on the Compass Comics website, so you can get part 1 then. So, and then Chuck and I'll be working on part 3 with Anthony, who's right here, and that's going to be a whole brand new story arc. So let's get her going.
Cool.
So
Saga
don't worry about
continues.
it, Geronimo. Get it.
Yeah. Cool name, by the way.
Yes. As long as you're not jumping out of a plane.
I wasn't thinking that at all. I agree with that. That was good. That was good. Yeah, well, the funny thing is, right now, we are making like this type of comics that Marvel and DC used to make when they were good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you're finding like mainstream or old mainstream, which is now in the independent market, where the independent market used to be just really sort of bizarre, strange little things, and every once in a while a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle or Tick would hit big. But now you're seeing this indie movement where it's like you don't have to compromise story, talent, IPs, anything, because there's such good product out there that if you pick up something from Marvel or DC and you look at Graham's book or my book or whatever, and you flip through it and you're going, well, this is what I remember Marvel and DC used to be. This is what I want to buy. I mean, that's what it is. And I think, I think we have a good chance of continuing to grow this and like continue to pull people if they can let go of their, political bias and just look for comics that are good. We're killing them right now.
The question you have to ask if you're an artist, looking for work, what's the incentive to work for Marvel or DC these days? The rates are lower than they were 30 years ago. When I got out in 2000, they're not paying those rates. So you're working on old money, old rates. So there's no incentive there. The characters, if you were a big fan of these characters, don't exist in the way you remember them. So getting to play in that sandbox, even for a little bit, holds no allure. They own anything that you create. So where's the incentive to give them ideas? If you're working on a Spider-Man comic and you get this great idea for a villain or another character or something, why give it to them? Because they're going to own it, Right. So I guess the question is to ask yourself, what's the incentive these days? Years ago, when we got into it, the incentive was they were the games in town. If you want to be considered a professional, you worked for Marvel and DC, and it was hard to get in there. It was competitive, and you were competing with the best of the best. I mean, now you're competing with Behance portfolios. It's not hard to beat that level of quality. But again, what are those people getting paid? They're probably getting paid what they're worth, which is not much.
Well, you see, that's how I started. Like my comic book career just started with like DC, Marvel, dead. Like I don't want to be a part of it. I don't want to be a part of Hollywood. I don't want to do that. So what do I do? And so the whole thing, like around where I started, was all the campaigns, all the crowdfunding, all the new people doing their own thing was popping up. And so just figuring all that out. And like you were saying, Aaron, was like all that manga's doing. I was like, I thought manga was doing something completely different. No, they're doing all the stuff that the American comic books used to do, going through all, doing all the different stories, war stories, romance stories, sports stories, like all that stuff. That's like way, like they used to do that all the time. They're doing the thing that worked. Like it's like Chuck, you were go over the history stuff and how much they were selling per issue on the newsstand or something like that with some of these stories, like the Disney comics or the Dell comics or what or something, or the Eerie. I forgot who does Eerie. Like what was
Warren.
the
Warren.
Warren.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, like the millions that they were selling, and so yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They,
These are
they,
books that sold the millions.
this Captain Marvel sold over 1 million copies every other week.
Wow.
It was so popular; it was on sale twice a month,
Yeah.
Wow.
and it sold over 1 million copies
So
every other week.
yeah, and then I hear you go over the history of what DC and Marvel have done business wise. It's like they just, I don't know, like in that your whole thing about the comic book stores and get out of the newsstands kind of thing, where like no one goes into a comic book store cold. No one does. Like it starts somewhere. They go in there. If you're already a fan, the fans go in there. So I just started comics like where I got into this and I didn't know who to go to. I didn't know what to do and nothing. And it was stressful because I was like, what do I do? I don't know. I guess I just draw. I just draw and I just try to figure out how to get good and stumble upon something eventually. Because the thing was,
you stumbled right into
exactly. I just like eventually when I knew, it's like when I knew like I was good enough, I was like, okay, I'm getting really good at this. And then Chuck, you said like a video, you go, I don't know, you were saying something about like someone asked you a question like, how do I get in or how do I do this or what, like, and then you said you have to be good, you have to be available or something like that. And there was like a third thing or
Reliable.
something. Reliable.
Yeah.
And then at the time I was reliable. No, I'm just kidding. No, it was like, it's like, I remember I just emailed you and you're like, hey, I got this story. And I'm like, all right. And that was it. That was it.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Cause I've been looking for the right artist for Mysis Suprema for like 15 years. You sent me a link to a bunch of your artwork. I looked at it. I thought, man, this guy is so freaking versatile.
Yeah.
We're off to the races.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you too. I was going to ask you guys. It's like I guess the artists here, when it comes down to that, like I forgot who it was, who the name you were talking to, Graham, on your storytellers thing. I forget his name, but he said something where he goes, because you asked him like who was your influences or something, and he said, it's everywhere. Like I never wanted anyone to know who I was like. I wanted to be different every time, or I wanted to be different here and there. I wanted to mix it up. And that's exactly how I was. So I could do realistic. I could do cartoony. I could do totally all cartoon. I could do it all. Like I do all these different things to anyways. But so I was going to say, like, I don't know about Graham or Aaron, about your, portfolio or something like that, how versatile you were, or why did you settle upon the style that you have now? Or
well, that's a great question. The style I have was something that evolved over many years, and it's always based upon what your influences are, and your influences change throughout time. I mean, when I first started out, it was John Romita. He was the guy. And then, but I also like cartoony guys like Dick Sprang. And then I liked, these artists of the books that I liked reading. There was a reason I liked them, because I liked those artists, Irv Novak. But, some of these people I didn't pull anything from. Whereas others that I came across later on, like Joe Kubert or Roy Crane or Frank Robbins, that John Buscema, Jack Kirby, I tended to marry those cartoony things with the more illustrative things to come up with my own style. But my own style, again, is always story determined. Like the artwork for the Chenoo is much more cinematic and realistic than, say, the cartoony look of Alien Alamo. I think my style goes and is bendable to whatever I feel the story needs,
I started off, when you're a kid, I think, you go through phases, right? I had a Jim Starlin phase. I had a John Severin phase because I was a big King Cole fan, and Severin was, the Severins were working on that book. And so that influenced me for a little while. But the ones that Barry Smith, the ones that stuck with me was always a big Frazetta guy, because even as a little kid in the 60s, I was seeing the Frazetta paperback covers, and then Wrightson. And I got to be about 18 or 19, and I just felt like my stuff was looking too much like a Bernie clone, that I was headed in that direction. And I just totally got rid of all my rights and stuff, which unfortunately I've had to buy back over the years at much higher prices. But I didn't want to use him as a crutch anymore, right? Because if I figured out how do I do these rocks? Well, I'll go look and see what Bernie Wrightson did, or how do I do this? Oh, I'll go look and see how Bernie Wrightson did it. And I also realized that, Wrightson's style is great for monster books and fantasy, doesn't really translate well to superhero books, right? Yeah. And so you're seeing there's a complete different look. And so I started looking at guys that were more superhero oriented guys, and especially in my late 80s, early 90s, when I really got out of film school and that kind of boat sailed, and I was trying to look to get into comics. I was looking at guys like Adam Hughes or Travis Schrader, Kevin Nolan, guys that were like really, really top of the line, and trying to figure out, okay, what can I glean from these guys to incorporate it into my stuff without just blatantly copying their style, right? And so you take bits of this guy and bits of that guy to kind of form something that works. And the funny thing is that you look at my superhero stuff and you look at my monster stuff, and it looks like, practically, other than just the regular people, it looks totally different. Wrightson is all over my monster stuff. You can look at it and say, oh, that guy's obviously influenced by Wrightson. But you look at my Justice League work and you wouldn't see an ounce of Bernie Wrightson in there at all. So it a little bit like Graham's talking about is like you sort of adjust what you want to do based on what you're doing. That's more of a commercial approach than a fine arts approach. And so even though, like I said, if you get my normal people, the lawyer in Garbage Man is going to look like the lawyer in Justice League, but you start looking at the superheroes and the monsters, and they go, there's different stylistic approaches. That's just not going to work here, so I'm going to do this instead. But I'm always looking, at what other people are doing and trying to gather elements from them and incorporate it into what I'm already doing.
The key, Anthony, is consistency, not necessarily the style. So, in other words, if you're going to go with let's say a cartoony manga style for something, then you want to make sure that it's all consistently looking like that, and not have a panel where you revert to, some dramatic reason that it doesn't look like it fits in. It has to be consistent throughout.
And consistently good. You can't have, you can't have one bad panel on a page, because that's everybody's focus goes to the one bad panel, right? You go, oh, this all looks great, but so there's that consistency level too. And just in terms of, I guess, consistency of professionalism, would that be the way to phrase it, I guess?
So you got a bad panel, turn the light out and make it a silhouette.
When in doubt, black it out.
That's right. When in doubt, black it out. Garfield's Bizarre Adventure for $20 super chat. That is a very good cigar, sir. With what happened to the Punisher's character recently, have any of you comic book veterans ever seen such blatant character assassination before during your time working in the mainstream comic industry?
No, this one takes the take, man.
I think it's unprecedented in the history of literature.
Yeah.
I mean, no one's ever, not since Arthur Conan Doyle tried to kill Sherlock Holmes. Anything like this happened. You know, where a company invested in this character, invested in this franchise, purposely destroys it, burns it to the ground, does a Hiroshima on it. I mean, it's over for the Punisher.
Yeah,
but we've never seen a time in history where business people are no longer concerned. Sales are not the bottom line. The bottom line is ideology, and if ideology is that's what's driving everything into the ground. Is you can't run a business ideologically. You have to run it for your customers. You have to run it by maximizing your sales. That's how you operate a business. You don't operate a business by how many people can I insult, or I'm gonna cowtail to this really small audience because I think it'll make me look good, even if I screw over 80% of my regular customers. That's just foolishness. And we see that's why all these, not just You know, look at Bud Light. Look at all these other companies that are doing this, and they're screwing themselves. Target.
But you know what they think? They think that if the Punisher is this, type A toxic masculine guy, that they will lose sales because of all the soy crowd going after them. When in fact, it doesn't matter if they go after them because they don't buy the comic.
That's exactly
and
right.
By turning the reins over to them, you are alienate the people that do buy your comic because that's not what they're buying it for.
Well, remember what they always used to tell us, guys? It was like when the internet first appeared, they told us, don't get on the internet. Don't read what people say about you. They're not our customers. And they still aren't. They're just people with big mouths, and they don't buy and support anything because they don't have any money. They spent all their money on purple dye for their hair, and then they sit around and wait until a bunch of people can get together and burn a city down. That's their life. Okay. And they do not buy anything. And you've got all these corporate.
They buy Starbucks coffee. That's what they buy.
Well, they save their money so they can get their Starbucks coffee.
Right. The thing is, it comes down to money. And finally, they're reaching the point where it's hurting. Every single major film studio is tens of billions of dollars in debt.
Right.
And it's mostly because of this woke movement. They've created entertainment nobody wants to see.
Right.
And now the superhero cycle, it's over, baby. It's over.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I got a few people inside, and they tell me, hey, the straight white male is back, because that's all the studios are asking for.
Yeah,
straight white male and horror movies, because they got to start making some cash.
Yeah.
Well, did you see
horror movies never go out of style?
There are more horror movies in production right now than in the entire history of cinema, because these Hollywood studios, they need to make some bank. Yeah, well, that's what it's all about.
Did you guys see that story that posted today about the Catholic school in New York, where they called them the based kids were revolting against the Pride Month and not going to class because they're making them watch movies promoting, lifestyles they didn't agree with. And then there was like kids out there picketing for gay pride, and they were taking their flags and stomping on them and tearing them up. And then the news report's hilarious because they say, and then things got violent. And they described the based kids. They were taking the rainbow rubber bracelets and throwing them into the street. And that was how the news company was casing violent behavior.
Right.
No one got hit, no one got punched, but they were taking rubber bracelets.
Well, that just shows you the power of like the media, and just like how they could take that one. I've seen that all the time, like since I've like in high school, since like it just take one little thing. I mean, one little thing, and they just milk it, and they just do whatever they can. They keep repeating it, and it's like violence, and then everybody's saying this in the media and everything else. And then you always see consistently, where everybody's polled, do you trust the media? Like, what's your trust in the media? It's always like in the 20s, or less than 20 or less than 15. Like, no one's listening to them. Yeah. But again, it's just like their power is like very far reaching. But I was going to say too about that too, was that now companies this Pride Month weren't like, a lot of companies didn't change their logo to the Pride flag. They didn't want to do it, and now they're when they're questioned about it, they have their public relations answer about it. Like, they're not.
My point about bringing this story up was that we're finally seeing major pushback to all this stuff, and you guys are right. Like Chuck, you just said, that's what brought it to my mind. We are starting to see course correction because everybody's like, this is not working, and we're failing as a business. And at some point, you've got to earn some money, or you're going to lose your job, and your company's going to go out of business.
Yeah.
And so
there's only so many things. It's like there's only so many government bailouts and so much that you can do. Like whatever version of a bailout, whatever the government is going to try to do to save certain companies. Like, because remember there was that it's like, why are all these companies suddenly going woke, even though it's not working? Well, they get money. There's money involved in that whole thing. You were saying, Chuck, there's this but there has been a pushback even before the lockdowns and stuff and all this stuff. There was a lot of pushback. So it just goes to show you, it's like how involved and how conspiratorial is your, like, are you willing to kind of bend where you're going like, wow, it's like when people were moving out into, away from the cities, getting away from the vampires, getting away from all the Hollywood stuff, getting themselves like freed from it, and then you go like all these crazy like government intrusions start happening, lockdowns happens, all this stuff. I'm just saying that like there's all these things happening, all these good things happening, and then just these huge world events starts like all over the place start happening at the same time, and you're just like, I don't know, like, is it just a coincidence? Is it just anymore, or is there just like a big concerted effort by Satan? No, but
no.
It's not a conspiracy; it's an understanding.
Yeah.
Right.
They all have an understanding, their college professors taught them.
Right.
They don't have to have meetings. They all know what the plan is.
Right. That George
Right.
Carlin said this like 20 years ago, right? He was making that exact same point that, because they were calling him a conspiracy theorist. He says, you don't have to get together with everybody. Everybody's on the same mindset. So they're just doing the same thing. They're not getting together on a big conference call and plotting, but they're all working towards the same goal because they've all the people in these positions of power are.
Well, a lot of people are getting together and they're backing Joe Frankenstein, like Geronimo here, who just backed Joe Frankenstein and Wraith of God 2.
All right.
So we've got a double dip there. Thank you, Geronimo.
Nice.
Thank you, everybody who's backing this project.
Nice.
It's doing very, very well. Let's see what we're at here. 84. Well, we hit 84. And now we just went up again. So we continue the upward ascent.
Tremendous. Gentlemen, I have to go make dinner. So I hate to leave you. This is spicy conversation.
It is a lot of fun.
Well, Aaron, it was nice meeting you.
Yes. Your work looks terrific. Chuck, great seeing you again.
I think I talked to you more tonight than I talked to you the whole time we were cross-gen.
I know. No, we'd have our little conservative chats in the shadows.
Yeah. In the corner, in the back, in the dark.
Exactly. All right. Well, Graham, congratulations.
Hey, thanks, buddy.
These things have been doing great, and I'm sure you'll. How long are you staying on?
I think we're going to probably close down pretty soon. It's late for me.
That's right. It's bedtime for poor old Graham.
And Rini is closing over on Ethan's channel, so wish her luck.
All right, dudes.
All right, buddy.
Care.
Thank
We'll
you.
See you soon. Thanks, you bet, man.
Adios.
Yeah.
All right.
So I don't know if you guys wanted to hang a little longer, or if you guys are ready
to do a little more damage.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's entertain them with all our know-it-all stuff about comics.
I know everything.
And everybody.
I've seen it all.
I know nothing.
Remember when Strother Martin said, "I seen it and done it," and I forget what that was from. I think it was from Rooster Cogburn. Was it Rooster Cogburn?
I think you're right.
Yeah, where he's like running the ferry.
Yeah.
Or something, right. And he says, "I've seen it all. I've done it all." I love that guy.
I like in Dracula Dead and Loving It when Renfield goes, I saw nothing, and they throw him in his cell, and he goes, I saw everything.
That movie's pretty like underrated.
It does not get the attention it deserves.
No, it does not. I remember watching it, and it's like no one mentions it, no one talks about it. I remember watching it, laughing my ass off.
That movie's a pisser.
I have not seen it. I've avoided it.
Oh my god! He does to the Hammer films what he did to the Universal films in Young Frankenstein.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
The scene where they first kill the first vampire, he tries to stake in, and this gout of blood. I mean, like 60 gallons of blood just flying up in his face. And Van Helsing. It's Mel Brooks stands back, so he's not in the flow. And he's like, hit her again. Boom, another down him.
It's like funny, like watching that like comedy, and like I don't know, at the time I guess it was, I don't know, like not considered a very good movie or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
I don't know.
you put it up against anything today, right? So it's like whenever if I watched it, if I'm going to sit there and watch something old, and like you're seeing characters act naturally, you're seeing the joke isn't hindered, like it's not, it's like there's actual humor in it. There's actually a story going along, and then today there just seems like everything is always, you're always stopping this. You're always like, I don't know, like I feel like you're just, the car's like jerking, and you're like you just got taken out completely all the time. And so at least I remember watching Dracula Dead and loving it, and like I remember there was that scene where the vampire is trying to seduce the guy, and he's completely keeps rejecting her, and it was like this is a comedy. I thought like he's supposed to give in. They always give in, or I don't know. Anyways, but no, he kept. But so there was actually like they actually had a developed character. He had like 3 dimensions to him or something. There was something all around.
He was so honorable,
Right, exactly. And they kept him that way,
Right.
Yeah. So anyways, but yeah.
Have you guys seen this trailer? The Last Voyage of the Demeter?
No.
Yeah, I saw that.
What'd you think?
It kind of lost me. I don't know. I mean, it's a good idea. I just
don't know where they're going to go with it, because
no place special.
I mean, what's that?
No place special.
I mean, they're going to have to bring somebody in it that survives, because obviously in the book, everybody is killed on the Demeter.
Right.
It's a really cool chunk from a chapter, if you will. Right. It's a great idea, but how's it going to play out? I wonder.
For people not hip to it, it's how Dracula gets to England aboard the Demeter.
Yeah. Anthony, you said you haven't seen it?
No, that's a Dracula story?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know
how he gets to, he basically gets crated up and put on this boat as cargo.
Right. Just like in every Dracula movie you see.
Yeah, and he feeds off the crew.
Right. But this is that story. Here, let's play the trailer.
Sure, why not?
Yeah.
Board. Powerful evil.
We call him Dracula.
The Demeter, on charter from Romania to London. Shipping private crates. Contents unknown. Out at sea with no land in sight.
Cinematography looks great.
Yeah, it looked good. I mean, yeah.
This here's Clemens. He's a doctor.
You dress like a learned man.
University of Cambridge. I know my way around the boat.
Our charter has agreed to pay a bonus for timely arrival in London.
Let me show you the ship. This here is Huckleberry. We don't come with like this to give the use clear.
Demeter's a fine boat, no doubt.
Something ripped apart the animals.
All the livestock?
This looks like a bite.
Search the ship. Everywhere. Evil is on board. Powerful evil.
In the night, it drinks our blood. He is here. We call him Dracula.
He's coming!
Did you see the size of that bloody thing?
I want to kill the cursed thing.
He is on this ship, which means we will never leave it.
The devil is real. May God have mercy on us all.
So
That's pretty badass.
yeah, there were some really good shots there. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I remember it makes me
The
think
making
of
of
a story.
Batman was a marathon. It was not a sprint.
Shut up.
It makes me think of when when Quentin Tarantino was filming Django Unchained, and they were shooting, and he pulls Jamie Foxx aside, and he takes him to a room, and he starts yelling at Jamie Foxx about, hey, like, what the hell are you doing? You know, you're a slave. You know, act like a slave. You got to act like a slave. And you just coach him, telling him all this stuff. It's like you're supposed to act this way. What the hell? What are you doing? You know, he's like done, and then he leaves the room. So in that clip, it's like whenever they have the black character, I mean, like sometimes I'm like, well, okay, why is he acting so confident? There's this air of confidence that he has. I don't know. It's like they tend to do that if it's like, I don't know what his character background is, because generally around there you go, okay, if they put a black character in it, now at that time, what I want to know more about that character, and why are they acting this way? Why does this character this way? Why do they always kind of it's like they put people they put black people in these roles, and then they always kind of act in the same kind of confident way no matter what era it is, and it's kind of just takes me out, where I'm like, is this a political thing now? I'm too much, like all that sensitive, like affirmative action hire stuff starts coming to mind.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you guys get that, like stuff like that comes to mind.
My radar goes up whenever I see anything like that seems arbitrary. But I got to take care of a couple of super chats here. Chris Thacker, $1.99. Best comics heyday story, gents. Not sure what he means by that. Maybe our favorite stories.
Comics in their heyday.
In the good old day. Okay.
Yeah, the good old.
And then Garfield's Bizarre Adventure, another $10 super chat. Thanks, buddy. I'm actually excited for all the fast food chains and grocery market names that the legend Chuck Dixon came up with in Alpha Core. Also, I wish all of you gentlemen good luck on all your projects. Thank you, sir. All right. So, best heyday stories. Best comic heyday stories. Well, we'll start with Mangog.
Right.
I think he means career.
Oh, best comics heyday story, gents. Oh, you think so? Like personal?
Yeah, back when we walked with giants.
Oh, best comic heyday stories.
I mean, like our personal best.
Yeah, but how do you define best?
I don't know. I mean, yeah. What were those moments you remember most? I remember being on a conference call with Stan Lee, because I was writing something for Stan Lee, and I'm on a conference call with a whole bunch of people I don't know, and Stan, and they're all putting their 2 cents in because they're Hollywood people, and eventually, I'm getting bombarded with all these suggestions and notes and everything else, and then finally Stan says, "Hey, leave him alone. Chuck knows what he's doing." That would be a heyday story for me.
That's very cool. That's very cool. I guess one of my favorite memories was sitting in Archie Goodwin's office, and a phone rang. And he excused himself, and he picked up the phone, and he was talking to this guy on the phone. Obviously a professional, longtime professional, and Archie had to explain to him that he didn't get the gig because he was unwilling to do samples of something. And then when he hung up, he turned to me, he says, don't ever be afraid to do samples for an editor. Sometimes they can't picture your style on something, and they need to see you do it. And I was like, wow, that's genius right there. I'm going to keep that in my mind. I think sometimes we get to the point in our careers where we think, well, I don't need samples. I'm such and such.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I don't want to see Russ Heath drawing Superman unless I can see a sample of how he would do that. And by the same token, I don't want to see a Kurt Swan, Army at War story.
Right.
Unless he, did some really great samples. So, I understood exactly what Archie was talking about.
Yeah.
So having a bunch of I've done a lot of just free art, just drawing, and then just sending it up, see what it does. Like I'll send it to somebody, oh, I drew your character or something like that. Or I drew this or something and I totally colored it, spent hours drawing it. And that's it's like that's just so you talk about just like the portfolio, the drawing the fan art, spending hours honing it in like that. Like, is that what you mean, Graham? You? Based off what you said, I was trying to get clear about what you were talking about on what he said to you, the advice he gave you.
Oh, well, it's just that if you're trying to get a job, and the editor asks you to do samples for that job, even though you're an experienced and established professional, it's not necessarily a knock on you. It's just that he can't picture your style because you probably already have a style that is locked in and associated with you. And he needs to see it depending on, what the subject matter is.
If they're hiring you to do Wolverine, they want to see what your Wolverine looks like.
Right. But particularly if, you did Millie the model for 10 years, that's an extreme example, but that's exactly what he's saying is that, this person obviously, and I have no idea. He never did tell me the name of the guy. He's a professional. But the guy was a long time, established pro, so. Hey, Mandy Silvers, thank you for that $5 super chat. Congratulations. Much love for Joe Frankenstein. Thank you, Mandy. That's Mandy, the Georgia Peach.
Hey, I think we kind of got interrupted. We left Anthony out there on a lonely, stormy cliff when he was talking about the black character in the trailer and how black characters seem to be treated these days in film. One-note individuals. I mean, I'm working on a project now. It's a film project. I'm working with a screenwriter, established screenwriter, and it's a period piece. And he was writing the character list up, and he's creating the characters to populate this film. And all of the African American characters had like one quirky trait, and that was it for their personalities. Right. And then he created other characters that were a lot more interesting, had funny things about them or running gags and things like that. Yeah. I said, well, why don't you make some of those characters black? Oh, but this guy's Italian. I said, none of the things you gave him were Italian specific.
Right.
Anybody, that would be funny no matter who was playing.
Right.
And I said, you are writing to Hollywood tropes and you're unconsciously doing it.
Right.
Because that's what they put you in. And it's demeaning to everyone.
Right.
It's demeaning to the people that you think you're helping out, and it's demeaning to the rest of us to expect us to accept this stupidity and this pandering. I always point to the show The Wire. The Wire had a majority African American cast. Every one of those characters is indelible, so sharply drawn, so real. And I said, why can't you do that all the time?
Yeah, it's like The Wire. It was all about like in the environment. This is exactly how these people are supposed to act or their backgrounds, and then there was so much more. So it's like when you see this trailer and you're like, okay, it's a period piece. It's at a certain time. Okay, they fit that. Now you saw everybody else in the trailer. Everybody seems to be acting acting at that time. Now, then suddenly there's certain mannerisms that this black character has, and it doesn't seem to be fitting. Why? Because it's like sometimes it's like, is it? I mean, like, I guess the question, like for you guys, is like, I'd be interested to see what you think. It's like they're afraid to offend. They're afraid if they make them look weak, if they make them look
interesting,
right,
real relatable,
right. It's like, and they don't understand that if like, weak. I mean, it's like, the relatable. If they make them relatable, they could. It's like the character could be so great because he'll have a triumphant moment. He'll have he'll have a flaw that he overcomes. I don't know. It just whatever comes out of the story. But they're not going to do that. He's probably going to be good all the way.
He's going to be a Mary Sue.
Right, and it's so frustrating that happens every single time. Mm-hmm. So it's nice to watch. I remember I was like, I'm watching Better Call Saul, and every character in there, like they don't do any of that. Everything is like relatable. Everything is like acts exactly the way they're supposed to. You know what I mean? Like everything is like everybody's natural. Everybody's just like, whoa. So
that's because
like,
nothing is done by box checking on a show like that. And Breaking Bad is the same thing. The writing is so damn good in that. Every one of the characters, there's good Hispanic characters, there's bad Hispanic characters, there's good white guys, there's bad white guys. They're interesting. Even the bad guys are interesting.
Right.
They have something that makes you. They could be horrible people. Most of those people were horrible people in that show,
right.
You know, based on their behaviors. But you couldn't turn away. You know, it's like watching, you know, the crime films, you know, Godfather, Goodfellas, or something like that. These are horrible people, but they're interesting people. They're interesting characters, and that translates across race and gender and everything else. Make them interesting.
Yeah, and also make them fit in period. I'm watching 1883 right now, and the Taylor Sheridan prequel to Yellowstone. And there's a black character in it. He's a Buffalo soldier. Mm-hmm. And this is Texas in the 1880s, you know. And when he's with other people that he doesn't know, and he's like basically in a crowd of white people, he holds his opinion back. He holds his fire, right? Now, when he's with people that treat him as an equal in respect, he's more outspoken. And it's like, well, that's period accurate.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And the thing is that I love this character. I haven't even finished watching the miniseries, and I'd watch 100 episodes featuring this character. He's awesome. I mean, he's badass and everything else, but he's in period. He's accurately portrayed in period. You know, because that's just the way it was, without making a big to-do out of it. You know, you know, he's seen as by most people as a second-class citizen. Well, that's just the way it freaking was. You know?
Right, exactly. Just make it the way it was. And you can make it interesting. You can make it cool. You can make it good. It's like, and then it's like the other thing was like, it's like I don't care if characters are good, like or evil. It was like, are they interesting? It's like it's just the interesting part. Mm-hmm. That was the thing I was like learning a lot from like even like Quentin Tarantino movies. It was like that. Like I was always haranguing at again, like growing up real conservative. I was like, man, it's like it's so relative. It's so da. I don't know what anyways, but it was so interesting. It was like, that's what the whole thing was like. It's pure movies. It's like, you know. But so anyways.
That guy can write dialogue.
Right.
I'll give him that. He can't plot a thing, but
the thing about Tarantino is he was learning on the job. You know, he candidly admits it. I love watching him in interviews because he's no pretentious auteur.
Right.
You know, he'll tell you when he effed up. He'll tell you when he made mistakes. I remember in Death Proof, he wanted to have the Texas Ranger characters from the Kill Bill movies in Death Proof, but he couldn't figure out a way to wedge them in. And he said, well, I'm going to do that scene where they talk about what you just saw. And he goes, I hated scenes like that in TV and movies where they would tell you what you just saw. Why would you do that? Why are you wasting my time? He goes, but I wrote a scene like that because I really wanted to have these two actors in the movie. Mm-hmm. He says, and then when it was done, I went, oh, that's why they do it. It adds resonance to what just happened. And I'm like, wow, for a big time director to admit, I didn't know anything until I did this scene. I said, you know,
that's awesome. Okay. Yeah,
that's cool.
Did you read his? Did you read the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood novel?
I haven't, but I have it, but I haven't gotten around to it.
I could not put that down.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to get into it.
Yeah, that it adds. It fills in so many blanks because I love Once Upon a Time in Hollywood the movie.
Yeah,
I watch it again and again and again. But I know there's so many plot. There's like the plot. Is there a story? What's going on? But I just enjoy it. I just enjoy looking at it, watching it, just all the history.
The only problem with that movie, it comes to a screeching halt when they're filming the Bounty Law, not Bounty Law, the other one that was actually a real show. Lancer. And the whole scene with the kid reading the script, and she's real pretentious.
Yeah.
And then there's the scene where they're filming it and he keeps messing up his lines and stuff like that. That thing just goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
It's like, ugh.
I gave him that. You know, he's a self-indulgent director. I gave
Yeah.
it to him. I love that same shit too. You know, I love all the stuff he loves. I can't wait to read his like memoir about you know growing up around the movies. So I read the first chapter. I was like, oh my god, that was me going to the grindhouse watching movies I was too young to watch.
I watched that movie on an airplane, and I remember when I got down to the end because I knew the Manson murders and what happened and everything, and I thought after he torched everybody and then the hairdresser comes down and they invite him up, there's that squeaking door. They show him walking up into the light from the darkness, and the music is just kind of very odd. And I thought, oh my God, he's going to get up there. He's going to find the people up there murdered and stuff like that. And then the Sharon Tate character comes out and brings him into the house. And I thought, well, the bad guys are in there. They're waiting, and then we're going to hear these noises and stuff like that, even if the camera doesn't move. And then the camera stays there, and then the music gets more bucolic, and then the credits start to roll. And I'm like, holy shit, he just told a fairy tale.
Yeah,
right.
He just changed his own history, you know. And then when you go back and you look at the whole thing with Bruce Lee, all that stuff was like this whole multiverse world or something. I hate that right now, but yeah, I thought then I loved it. I was like, oh, I can relax because I was waiting for the Tarantinos.
So I was going to say, by the book, you read the book, and it's such I want to read it again, but I read it and I was like, but is any of this what he's talking about? Like, because he goes really in depth with like film and actors, and he names and like all this stuff, and I don't know. I'm like, this is such. I mean, it's such interesting information. I don't know if it's true or not. I don't know if if it's just because he has. I don't know. He remembers everything he reads and remembers everything. All that. So he has names and dates and all this stuff, and he has all these different lists of movies and all this stuff, and he has all these opinions in it. But he puts it in a very good, interesting way in the story flow. And so I'm like, but I don't know if the history he's bringing up, if it's actually like, is it real? And he's just kind of putting his characters, weaving them around in it. So that's what I don't know. I can't seem to alleviate that. Like I'm looking around, I'm like, is anything inside Quentin Tarantino, is it all fiction? Did he make all this up, or is it actual like cinema history? Because if it actually is all cinema history, then I'm like, this is amazing. I'm like, it's
a lot of it is. I mean, Lancer was a real show. The guy who played Lancer, Timothy Olyphant in the film, you see him at his last scene is him riding off on his motorcycle. Well, the real actor who played Lancer was in a horrific motorcycle accident and lost an arm and a leg. And in fact, he plays the one-legged, one-armed guy in Something Wicked This Way Comes.
And he's in Posse too.
What was he in?
He's in the movie Posse, Kirk Douglas and Bruce Stern movie.
Okay. Was that after the accident?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he plays the town newspaper publisher.
Okay. So, he was in a bunch of stuff. I can't remember the actor's name now.
But all the Manson family stuff in the movie was because I was sitting with my wife watching it, and I'm laughing at stuff, and she said, "What are you laughing at?" Well, that's Tex Watson, and that's
right. Yeah, that's what it is. It's like because as someone in the chat is saying, it's an alternate history. It's like, no, I know. It's like it's just. He's inserting his characters within all this and with all within this history and I know that it's just stuff that they recall. I know that there's all those actors and everything and but in the book he goes so much in depth with all sorts of things that I'm like it's such a good wealth of info, but I don't know. I was like, some of it I was like, is this true?
I'm sure there's a mix of apocryphal stories and Hollywood legends.
Right. There's a story about one of the Beach Boys in it. And it's fascinating that, that he had some sort of connection to somebody in the Manson family. And I'm
absolutely did.
Yeah, there was his house.
God.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that was such an interesting part. And let's say but the more and what Quentin Tarantino is such a good writer was that he actually made one of the chapters all about that dog, the history about the dog, the whole backstory about the dog, and that's a whole made up thing too. But I mean, like, but that was way interesting. Probably one of my favorite chapters in the whole thing. So
you mean Cliff's dog?
Wait, what did I say?
You said the dog. You're talking
Cliff
about
Booth.
Cliff?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Cliff.
Cliff's
Yeah.
dog.
His dog. Yeah. Yeah. So where he came from and everything, where she came from, and it's amazing. It's just such a good story, and he talks about in the story. He goes, "How I got away with murder 3 times," or something like that, and it's like, so not just his wife, it was like 2 other people, and you're like, huh? So it's a very fascinating. It's a very good read. I just got through it in 2 days or something like that, and it just couldn't put it down. So I do recommend you read it.
I'm definitely gonna get to it.
Yeah.
I'm
And those
in the
devil
middle of
books.
a big honking book right now, but I'll get to it right after that.
I don't know when you guys have time to read, because by the time I can sit down, my eyes are so shot that I'll read 3 paragraphs and I'm nodding off.
Well, you have to read between your sets. Your workouts, huh? You got to read. You got to read. That's how I did it.
I get the book.
Work out. Yeah. After I wait 30 seconds, I have the book open and I just read for 30 seconds. And then I put it down and then I go do my set and I read. That's how I fit. I go to the gym. I went to the gym. That's what I did all the time. Just grab my book and I'd bring it, and all between there, and I got through a little bit through the book. Whenever I found a moment, that's what I did. So yeah, that's how I found it. That's how I found the time.
Oh man. Well, guys, I think we're going to wrap it up here. I'm getting a little tired.
It's my. No, it's
He's
not
getting
my-
ready to nod off after reading a few pages.
Yeah, I was reading the chat, and it's like chapters. I was like,
oh.
Well, we're at 84,445 now. So
all right, yeah. Let's. Oh wait, I got to get rid of that stuff.
Yeah, what's that? Is that? No,
That was the next screen up
Yeah.
after the trailer. All right, Joe Frankenstein
Yep.
Part 2.
Gym ain't for reading. The gym.
There it
is.
is, 84,405 with 1,558 backers. You know what I don't understand is we closed out Part 1 with 1,800 and something backers.
Huh.
And you would think that if you bought Part 1, you'd want to get Part 2.
It's issue 2, man.
Right.
It's the issue 2 curse.
It is. But you know what? What's going to happen is they're going to want to get it, and they're going to have to get it on the website, and it's going to cost more.
Right.
So,
right.
Bad for you, good for me. So, yeah. You should get this one, guys. So that you're getting it here at the lowest price. You get all the goodies that go with it. You help supporting independent comics and the type of entertainment you want from a comic book company. And I guarantee it's great stuff. You're gonna love it. Have you ever been not happy with a Dixon Nolan comic? I don't think so.
No. We worked too hard.
Yeah,
We worked too hard for that to happen.
we put too much love into it.
Yep.
And when we love it, we're like, look at this scene. Oh, this is great. So we know you're going to love it because we're as geeky as everybody else.
Trust us.
Yeah. Yeah. We love this stuff.
And I get to work on Part 3. So there you go.
There we go. Thank you, Rick. Got Part 1 and have ordered Part 2. Fun stuff that I dig. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Everybody, if you're watching this a little bit later, the campaign will still be up till 3 a.m. Eastern time, 12 midnight Pacific Standard or Pacific Daylight Time. So you still got some time. Don't think too long. Go get it. Get it now. We ship these things relatively quickly. Part 1 is almost done. Julie will have that finished by next week. Yeah, and you're going to love it. So thank you, everybody. Have a great night and keep the fires burning. Bye-bye.